started.
That we're live.
All right. Stream has started. We are live. Hello, hello. Welcome to the Statecraft series, episode 18. Something new. I don't have my normal guests today. One of them is in Morocco. We did have that short hiatus. But I am featuring two current people at the moment, Mango and Luna. Mango is currently getting a flannel on to support conservatism, and Luna over here is a neo-Nazi fascist, socialist, progressive traditionalist.
Yes, all of the
Yes,
above.
all of the above. Every political ideology, all the same. Yeah,
AKA centrist, which is
Yeah, I
centrist.
a
can't
nothing
believe you'd start
sandwich.
the stream when
Yeah,
I'm out here, like, getting my flannel.
dang,
Also, fucking, I heard you from across the room. I had my headphone volumes turned up.
dang. I didn't think you'd hear me. Okay. Anyways, we are live now.
I'm living in a one bedroom, my friend. This is
Dang, I live in
the
like
place is.
I live in a 3-bedroom right now. A 3-bedroom, 1 bath.
Yeah, well, aren't you privileged?
Yeah, you
Jeez.
should thank my fiance. Yeah.
Maybe
Meanwhile,
if we
she
supported more capitalist viewpoint, I'd be richer. Okay.
uh maybe if you could have free food, water, shelter, then maybe you could afford the better means of life.
Anyway,
Anyways, Luna, you wanted to ask some questions to try to deduce my political ideology.
Yes. How do you feel about taxes?
Um I don't support all taxes. So like I don't support non-choice based taxes. So like sales tax I'm okay with, land value tax I'm okay with, but not like income tax or property tax.
Okay. How do you feel about immigration?
I fully support immigration, the freedom of movement. I 100% support. If you want to come here, you should be able to. As long as, and the only thing that should restrict you is if like you have a criminal record, like a violent criminal record. So like if you have a drug charge, it's whatever. No one cares.
Okay. How much do you think we should spend on our military budget? And by our, I mean the United States, because I'm Canadian.
Yeah, fucking Canadians. Yeah, so
We are one though.
overwhelmingly I do support the armed troops. My dad's military. So I think we should spend a lot on military. However, I think we spend just a little too much, and we should probably cut back a little bit, probably via cutting some overseas bases or just like combining some to make like a bigger base, a single bigger base instead of two smaller bases. But overall, I do support like funding the armed forces a lot.
Do you think that we should spend more than 2% of GDP
On armed
on
forces.
military spending? Yeah.
Um, yeah, maybe.
Okay. NATO targets. Last question.
Okay.
Um, what did you think of those stimulus checks that were handed out during the pandemic? Do you think
Um,
that that was a waste of money
I don't think it was
or that
necessarily
it
a
was an
waste of money.
appropriate
So
economic policy?
it helped a lot of people during a crisis. However, I don't support like things like UBI just giving people cash because you can't really trust, like you don't know how people are going to spend that money. I'd rather just have given people their food, water, shelter, like basic resources to life during this time of crisis. So that way they are actually receiving their means to survive.
Okay.
Yeah. Are
Um,
you confused yet?
yeah, I kind of am. I don't know
Also,
where I'd put you.
how are you
he's all over
confused?
the place.
I'm really not. It's just I'm just in a kind of part that a lot of not people like expect or I mean you can ask more questions if you want, try to deduce me a little bit further. I'm an open book. Mango
Oh,
knows what I am, so
oh,
Other than
I was gonna.
sexy.
yeah.
Oh, shots fired. Are we already roasting? It's too early in the stream.
Yeah.
Um, okay. What kind of music do you like? I feel like this
Um
is a good indication
you're it's not, it's just
of
gonna confuse you even more. So currently I listen to a lot of Corsican and like French, pop, jazz, country, that type of stuff. Um, Growing up, I grew up on country, a lot of country. I've never really been a big fan of like hip hop, rap, R&B. Um, but I'm most currently most of my like Spotify is just French jazz, French pop.
Oh, well, est-ce que vous parlez français?
Not on the stream. Calm down.
Yeah, I sound a lot more fluent than I actually am. To people who don't speak French, I sound fluent, but my French sucks. We're forced to learn it in Canada.
Yeah,
Anyway,
If
you
um,
if
probably
you were to go to France, they'd fucking boo you out of the country,
yeah
right?
right, but I actually don't have a Quebecois accent,
yeah.
which they think is ridicule. That's literally what they call it. Um, Ridiculous. I just have a very like heavy anglophone accent, which apparently they think is actually kind of cute. So I've heard. But anyway. Okay, moving on. So hmm, I feel like the question that I'm going to ask you next is going to sound really broad. So feel free to just answer as much in as much detail as you want. But like
Gotcha.
how much involvement do you think the government should have in the day-to-day affairs of people? Like are you a believer in big government or do you err on the side of small government? Like let
Um,
people.
yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
a little bit more on the side of like smaller overall government. Probably uh like more focused. So like instead of being like here's a bunch of like regulations that will either hurt you, like it either hurt you or benefit you. Like hey, here's like a focused one like you can't do this very specific thing or you can do this very specific thing. Just instead of having broad government, I'd rather have more focused, smaller.
Can you give me an example of a policy that would entail?
Yeah, so like I
Like,
mean, like we were talking about yesterday with, or at least at some point, let's say like Texas, they have like a minimum parking lot size for any business. I think when it for that, if you're going to do a parking lot size, I would rather it be like, hey, if you have a business of let's say over 100 people, then you need to have like 100 parking spaces, just something like that. Not necessarily something I support, but that would be an example of maybe like a focused one instead of overall like have it so broad that it has to apply to every business.
yeah. So actually, I am against that kind of legislation a lot of the time. I think there are some that are okay, but like even just the example to run on the parking lot thing, like, stuff like that is things that really push small businesses away from success because
Well,
the
I'm not. It's not.
thousands of
So I don't.
dollars.
So I don't support parking lot size. Just to be clear, I don't support having a minimum parking lot size for any business. But that would be an example of a broad, like a broad
Mhm.
thing, like a broad regulation that can be more strict, to like to fit a smaller amounts without it being broad.
So, are you saying that your is this just your policy take for like state government, or is that
Well,
federal
she
government?
yeah, it was just I mean I mean I don't want parking lot size like a minimum or maximum in general. It was just you had asked uh like give me an
No, I
example.
mean for no, I get what you're saying. What I'm saying is, are you saying that we should have because I think the way the government functions now is more so like large government takes care of like the um more systematic issues, right? Like obviously military things like um Jesus, why am I blanking right now? Um like the way that the systems function, such as like overall legislation for um, like federal crimes and such. And man, I'm blanking so hard.
You're
Um,
good, man.
just the overall structure of the entire system, and the states are the ones that hyper focus. And are you agreeing that that's the way that it should be?
Um maybe like I think overall states probably should have more like say within their own borders. Like the smaller you go, the more say like your local should be stronger than the like the state and then so on. Um So like,
Yeah, or at least more impact to your day to day.
well, yeah, I mean that's just kind of how it already is. It's just not a lot of people pay attention to their local because everything is so global as it is right now. You're able to get in contact with someone across the country, which I think is a very good thing. But I don't think whatever someone does in New York doesn't affect what happens in California, for example.
Yeah, I feel like we have a culture now where it does. So, like somebody in Washington would, they'd have this set of opinions, and then somebody in Texas would be outraged by that and say, "Well, the way that you're running this state is bad, and we need to condemn that." Whereas it doesn't really have any effect on Texas, right, and vice versa, right?
But
So,
that's what I mean is that
I
it
think
doesn't like
looking
it
outside has
leg-
been this
legis-
massive negative.
legislatively it doesn't affect Texas or California, whatever someone does in DC or New York. It doesn't affect them.
Yeah, and it's also not necessarily indicative of the overall culture of the country, right?
I mean,
I think
yeah.
we're just hyper fixating on these
Like
um,
no, you never hear.
cultures in other areas, right?
Well, like you never hear about like things that are going on like Wyoming or Oklahoma. You never really hear anything. It's always like here's super progressive cities, here's super conservative cities or traditional. Um here's like these are like the two biggest things that everyone focuses on. It's like, hey, this state is failing because it's super progressive. Well, the progressives will say this state is failing like a lot, let's say like Texas, because it's super traditional or conservative. And no one really cares about the like centrist opinion of places like Wyoming or like the Midwest or anything. No one cares about them.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because we're the best.
Anyways, you have any other questions, Lua? Or did that maybe help you a little bit?
Um, well, I'm not that politically savvy when it
Okay.
comes to like labeling people in accordance with their views on particular policies or laws, unless it's on the like comfortably right or comfortably left. So once you
Yeah.
start getting into that kind of like center area,
Like
you just kind of sound
like
like me. Like it
I'm
depends on the issue, you
like
know?
I'm not a hardcore socialist or a hardcore like fascist, so you can't really like pinpoint exactly where I am.
Exactly. I'd say you're kind of like me. I could ask you more questions on your views on social issues.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean that's
like
that's gonna be pretty like at that point you're basically telling like I'm giving away a lot.
yeah, like I could ask you how you feel about guns. That's
I
pretty
fully
indicative
support
of
guns. I actually support
Remember when I
owning
said,
nukes.
yeah, that this is the guy I was telling you about. It's like everyone should own
Oh
nukes.
wait,
I
Like,
support
you're the
private
nukes you're
I
the nukes
support
guy?
yeah, I support private ownership of nukes, yeah.
That's a radical,
It's
very
very
radical
it's very
take.
radical.
Like
Yeah, very radical.
yeah, that's yeah, I've never I don't know if I've ever heard a more radical take.
You can't be more
So,
radical.
what
That's the
made you
thing.
arrive
That's
at this? Yeah.
well,
What made you
so
arrive at this view?
um I think that if the military can own it and buy it, I think like if you can purchase it with your public funds, you should be able to purchase it with your private funds too. I mean, it's just
okay,
kind of the same
so
thing.
question for you:
Sure.
You're in support of free trade
Yes.
completely.
Mhm.
So what if you know get a nuke
Yeah.
and then you decide, well, I want to give free trade. I want to give free trade a shot, and I'm going to sell this nuke to, say, Iran. Where do you sit
Okay.
on that?
I'm sure. I mean, yeah. I'm not going to contradict
I,
myself. Yeah, if
we're
you
like we're like fucking
doesn't mean
Gaza,
that
right?
I
Like,
mean, I mean if you want to,
or
sure. But but like
yeah, I
that
don't know,
just
man.
yeah, but it doesn't mean that they're going to use it, right? Just because you own something doesn't mean you're going to necessarily use it against other people. Like people own guns, but most people that own a gun aren't going to use it against other people.
Yeah, but like most individuals aren't like authoritarian regimes that
Yeah.
are anti-Western and want us
Well,
to die.
if let's say the US went completely totalitarian like fascist or socialist, right? Wouldn't you want to have a means of defending yourself against that fascist regime?
yes, I don't think nukes defend you from a fascist regime. I
Well,
think
if they
nukes
can
do
use it,
nothing but
if
destroy
they
the
can,
entire country, right?
well, if they can use it against you, why can't you use it against them?
Well, they
Wouldn't
won't use them against us,
Yeah, because
right?
it'd
Because
be
there's
it.
that's shitty
Yeah,
warfare.
well, like if this, let's say this entire like, well, that's the thing with totalitarian regimes. They don't care about like if there's someone just let's say a whole neighborhood dissents, or let's say a whole city. Let's say LA dissents against like let's say Trump became a totalitarian fascist, right? If he got into the Oval Office and he completely controlled all sectors of the government like he wants to. And then LA resisted. The entire city of LA resisted and said, "Hey, no, we don't support this. We're going to fight against that." They have no means of protecting themselves, realistically,
Yeah,
against
I
the
mean,
entire army.
I think that we can look at that and say, well, there's never been a country that has ever used anything even remotely close to that amount of destructive power against their own
There's
country.
there's nothing
Even in
stopping them,
uprisings, even in
but
with
that's also because
yeah,
most
there's
places,
nothing stopping them except for like you have no country to rule if it's a
well,
nuclear wasteland, right?
well, it'd just be LA. If the rest of the country, like there may be some minor centers, if they see like, oh shit, they just nuked LA because they all resisted. I have no means of protecting myself against that. I have no way of deterring that kind of power.
Hmm.
It's more of a
So
defense thing than it is an offense thing.
what's the difference between a person sitting in his home who owns a nuke, calling people and saying, "I demand $10 billion, or I'm going to nuke the country," and somebody going and planting like a bomb under like seats at a fucking stadium or something, right? Like
Well,
you're basically allowing that to be like
we also agreed
they don't
that
have
there
to do anything to
well
use that.
we also agreed that um that people should have psych evaluations and like several other different evaluations. Like it's not stopping you from purchasing it. It's just putting restrictions on like who can own it, but it's not putting on like you can't buy this because it is that thing, right? So like someone
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
absolutely
we've
fucking
already
batshit
agreed that.
insane, yeah, someone that's batshit insane probably shouldn't be able to buy a nuke. Um, but that wouldn't stop like me and you, who's probably a lot more reasonable, from doing the same thing, from buying one.
Yeah, I guess there's a worry in my head that's like a nuke is like that's power, right? That's just
Yeah,
instant power,
it's also
right?
it's also deterrence from anyone else trying to attack you as well. Just like civilians with guns, right? They're less
Well,
they're probably they're more likely to be attacked, but the more guns you have overall, the safer a country is in terms of crime because everyone's afraid to do something.
yeah, but my thing is if you have a nuke,
Hmm.
right? What is I'm curious what like the likelihood of you owning a nuke as an individual, like
Yeah.
the likelihood that you become corrupt and insane, right?
Well, then
Like
you
you can
can
be
have
completely sane and
well,
then like buy a machine gun and it's not going to affect your mental state. But if you have the ability to kill, let's say, half of New York with a push of a button, right? Like
sure.
that's a lot of power. Even if you're sane and you have a lot to lose, you know you could lose it, man.
Well, also
Imagine if a bunch of because would you say that the people that like invaded the Capitol were like not invaded, but whatever the fuck you want to call it, yeah, basically. We're sane individuals.
um they probably had a lot of them probably had temporary um like insanity. Some of them were absolutely probably batshit insane and already wanted to overthrow the country. Um, but that also that it's also the case that none of them could even afford the means of buying a nuke either. So
Yeah, but what if they were to put together a
like a
like
GoFundMe,
oh,
like here's a
yeah, essentially
GoFundMe
a
for a
nuke
fucking nuke.
GoFundMe. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's all theoretical, right? So
Sure.
if some
Yeah.
group were to be like, oh well, we're gonna get a
But
nuke
then
and then we're gonna invade the Capitol, and when that doesn't go good, then we'll just bomb all of DC with this
yeah,
fucking
but
nuke.
like we can still
That's
have like
possible.
you can still have like monthly to yearly like psych evaluations and stuff and be like, hey, it's like there's certain places in the US where it takes like a week after you like want to buy a handgun, like, hey, can I buy a handgun or like a rifle or something? Be like, Yeah, you can buy one, but first here's a background check, here's psych evaluations. It'll take a month before you can even get it in, and several other like restrictive means of
Yeah, but
doing.
that's not
It's
really too much of a deterrent when you could have
well, it's not. It's not
like
that
a
it's not
psych.
necessarily a
Uh,
deterrent. It stops bad people from getting the means of killing other people. Um,
what I'm saying is you don't have to be a bad person to do the wrong thing, and by giving
well,
somebody the
no,
amount of power that is a nuke, right? I feel like that inevitably corrupts, right?
I don't
Because
think it
what's to
will.
stop Texas from seceding if a bunch of Texas civilians are just like, well, we just have nukes now, right? And
Well,
then the
that's the
government's
thing.
like,
If
oh
it
well,
Texas,
well,
well,
okay, Texas technically could, right? But
I
let's look
also,
at like
I
a
mean,
different state.
well, no, I believe like if the people within a state want to secede or become part of a different state, they should be able to. I also believe that
Well, then why do we fight the Civil War?
mostly because of slavery, right? And also because
No, because they wanted
there
to
was also
leave
a,
the Union,
well, no,
right?
there was also a lot of provocation from the South that wanted to invade the North because the South was poor. It was pretty poor.
I think that was less of a mainstream view. I think the mainstream view was we're gonna secede from the nation so we can do what we want to do and not be under the rule of this government.
So
And
who
they did.
attacked?
And
Well, who attacked first? The South or the North? It was the
yeah, I
South.
mean
The South
that's
attacked
I
first,
know.
right?
Yeah, sure. I'm sure they did. Yeah.
Yeah, which means that they provoked the war.
Yeah.
Yeah, so regardless of like how they like if them seceding wasn't the problem, it was them attacking the North after they seceded that became like the bigger problem.
Yeah. I mean, I think the bigger problem was just they were allowed to secede in the first place.
Well, theoretically, any state can secede under the right circumstances. It's just highly unlikely.
Yeah. I'm doing my quick look here because it looks
Yeah.
like the American Civil War began with the secession. There was a declaration of war before the battle. Um,
So
political
the South declared on the
powers.
North. Okay, then. So the South provoked it by declaring on the North.
I don't know if that's true.
Well, you just said it was a declaration of war after they seceded. The secession was the declaration of war.
Um, no, there was a declaration of war after
After.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. 3 days after Fort Sumter. So yeah, President Lincoln declared war after the attack for sure. Yeah, well, I listen. I'm not trying to support the South here. I'm saying they shouldn't have been allowed to secede in the first place, right?
well,
Regardless of
I
who attacked first, regardless of any of that, we shouldn't
well, I just
allow
think
people
that
to leave.
if someone wants to be free, they should be able to be free from like a nation, right?
No,
You don't think so? So like if said, "Hey,
no.
I don't want to be a
I
US
think the
citizen. I
only
want to."
state that has claim to that is Texas. Texas is the only state that has a claim to that, technically.
How so?
Well, Texas in their when Texas joined the union, there was like stipulations that allowed them to have like special privileges to actually leave. There's a I don't know what the document is. I could do some more
Well,
research on it. My understanding was
doesn't the well
like
the state constitution doesn't matter in accordance to as it is right now, the whatever the
it wasn't
federal.
the state constitution. It was the like the joining of the union, right? That's not the constitution of the state. That's
Well,
like a whole
this
separate
was this
document
before or after the secession?
of Texas from like Mexico or what?
No, like was this before or after after the South seceded?
Oh, well, that doesn't matter. I
Well,
don't know,
it does
but
matter,
that
right?
doesn't matter.
If like certain states, let's say it was
Wait, are you
before.
saying are you saying Texas joined the Confederates, not the United States? Because
Like,
that's not true.
well, no, they were Confederate state, right? They were. Now
I
I'm
mean, yeah,
saying
they were subject.
was this special thing before or after the Civil War? After they
I feel
rejoined
like
the
we're
Union,
getting
or
really hung up on this, and this
well,
isn't
no,
important. My point
well,
is that Texas is the only state that has a claim to leave. The rest of the
I'm
states have,
saying I
have
don't
essentially a
it.
contract that
And
says,
I'm
"Hey,
saying it
we are not leaving."
depends. I'm saying it depends. If it's before, then they have no right to it. If it's after the Civil War, then they do have a right to that. That's what I'm saying. It depends on when it was.
Um,
If it was when they first joined the Union before the Civil War, then after they seceded and then became part of the Union again, they don't have any special claim to that anymore.
Well, yeah, technically, as of 2006, they can't. But they did. They were able to before then. They just in 2006 they closed the loophole. Yeah. Yeah, well,
So,
that's fine. So even better. So not even Texas can leave. Awesome. My point's stronger.
well, you're saying that they did. I'm saying they didn't.
I'm
So,
saying that the Supreme Court says that holds that the states cannot secede from the union by the act of the state. So the only way for them to secede is if the federal government lets them go.
yeah.
So they can't leave unless we allow them to leave.
And I'm saying I don't.
Right? So if you give
I'm
nukes
saying
to
I
a
don't.
state and they say we want to leave, then we almost are forced to allow them to leave.
But that's the thing.
Right?
I mean, I think you should be able to see if, like, if Oklahoma wanted to be like, hey, I don't want to be part of the U.S. anymore. They should, like what the UK did with Brexit. It'll fuck them over, like
No, no,
financially.
no, no.
But
That's completely different. Holy
no, I'm
shit.
just saying.
The UK is still their own country.
Well, yeah, in Oklahoma can be its own country too.
Well,
It just won't be a
group of
strong
countries.
one.
Sorry,
It just won't be
UK
a
is.
it won't be a strong one, but it'll be there.
Yeah, no, it's not their land.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the land of the people. All right,
Well,
and then it's given to them
anyways,
based off of yeah. No,
Luna,
they can't leave, and nukes are crazy. Go ahead.
any other questions, Luna, about social? Because that's what we were talking about before we got all into this nuke argument.
See, that's what happens when you bring up guns.
Yeah, and
Always turns into
self-defense nukes,
huh.
Listen, I said we
How
could do
about
tanks. All right.
and that surprised Luna.
which is pretty
That was
extreme too.
that was a big surprise. Yeah, that's probably one of my most extreme takes.
Yeah, that definitely is shocking. It's like original though. I've never heard anybody in my entire life say something like that. So there's that.
You're welcome.
Okay, how do you feel about the death penalty?
I fucking hate the death penalty. It should be done away with.
What? You support ownership of nukes but are against the death penalty? Like
Yes.
ethically you think it's immoral or something?
According, like, from my personal belief, my subjective understanding, I do not I can never support the death penalty or even prisons as they stand.
Or
Okay,
even
let's see.
prisons. Holy shit.
Well,
I
like
didn't know that part.
punitive, punitive, like as they stand in the U.S. as punitive punishment. I support rehabilitation fully.
You think it's too punitive.
I think,
But
like,
like, okay, what if I gave you an example? Like if somebody, like for example, I'm just trying to think of the name of the place where this happened, but there was a shooting in
mhm,
the US. There's many shootings in the US, but this
yeah,
particular one was especially heinous because they killed like a lot of kids.
like
Um,
Uvalde. Was it
I'm trying to
Uvalde?
remember. I think so. Ben Shapiro
Uvalde,
and Chris
Columbines.
Morgan.
There's Columbine.
Yeah, I think it's Uvalde. So, like somebody like that, would you support them getting the death penalty? Like you
No,
know that there's no way that they're
no,
innocent.
no.
Really?
The innocence doesn't matter. It's the fact that I don't think that the state should be able to go in and kill people. It should be an individual thing on self-defense. It shouldn't be a collective thing.
Okay.
Um,
You go ahead.
well, I guess the question is, and I asked you this before stream,
Mm-hmm.
comes down to, do you think holding them in a cell for the rest of their life is, better than just killing them, right? And
I
it
mean,
depends on the crime, obviously, but like if you
well,
like rape and murder a kid,
I think that anything is better than the death penalty. Even if you're stuck in like eternity in a prison cell, it's better than the death penalty.
yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, that's just mental torment, right?
Hmm. Uh, okay. I mean, we have two different opinions on this, I guess. But
Well, like you put somebody in a cell, especially if it's like we were talking about like psychopathy, right? If
Yeah.
you put somebody who just isn't able to intermingle with like the normal prison system where they have like human interaction, they're forced to be in a cell on their own, and then they get their little pot of daylight for like 10 minutes a
Hey,
day or whatever the
hold
fuck the
on. Hey,
system is,
Mango, hold
right?
on. Before we continue, Luna's gonna be so fucking shocked when we get into like the abortion or like suicide. She's gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, Luna's actually she's got a different view,
She doesn't know. Well, she
unfortunately.
doesn't. You know. We've talked about this before. You know what I believe on these things. Luna doesn't.
Yes,
And so far, I've
that's
seen
true.
bad shit insane, and I seem like a hardcore conservative almost, and until we get into this other shit.
Yeah, abortion and fucking social programs.
Social programs, abortion, and like suicide stuff.
Really, I don't even know your
How
suicide
about
views,
Oh
but
no. Yeah, you do.
yeah, I mean, are we just so we can keep going through topics, or if anybody's interested in one specific thing, we can
We can
deep
slowly go
dive
into
into
it.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying if anybody has something that jumps out at things,
Like, well, that's
that's what
kind
I
of
want to
everything's
talk
been kind of
about.
been
I'm
yeah,
down.
everything's been jumping out at you, like nukes and all this. Yeah.
Well, everything will. I'll ramble about it.
Yeah,
We
which it's great content. Great content.
anyway, so back to what I was saying.
Hmm.
Fucking so like they get their 10 minutes of sunlight and they're isolated from the rest of the prison community. I'm like, how much worse is that mental torment than just getting it over with, right?
Well,
And
that's
there's a lot of
I mean
instances
that gets into
that can be
solitary, which
cited.
that gets into solitary confinement, which I also don't support.
Okay, well, but like what do you do with these people? You can't. I we've talked about or the reason I support the death penalty is because of like psychopathy and the fact that
Well,
there's no reliable treatment system for these kind of people,
given
right? And
enough
they're dangerous
time,
for society.
well, given enough time, you can rehabilitate anyone, um, either now or eventually with better medical, which we can invest in,
Well, yeah, I mean, if you like I said, if you can come out with a pill that just fixes this,
like an
or
empathy
even a
pill. Yeah,
reliable system,
which
yeah, or even like
there's
a
investments in
reliable
there's
therapy.
an yeah there's investments in empathy pills for social or for psychopaths, but sociopaths, as it is right now, can be rehabilitated with modern methods.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible to help manage and treat aspects of psychopathy, and even like allow them to live a normal-ish life, right?
Yeah, and but that's the
But
goal, right?
also,
Is to try to have them not commit heinous acts and to be able to try to live a normal life. That's the goal behind any sort of therapy.
yeah, which is fine if they haven't already committed the heinous crimes. If they have
Well,
committed the heinous crimes, the
I don't.
walk back rate on that is almost zero. Like you can't reintegrate these people into society reliably.
Well, do you think that well, but you've already said that people can be like you said specifically like sociopathy or psychopathy, but there's people that have done heinous
No, no,
acts
no,
that
no.
don't have.
Sociopathy, I'm more like just separate the two. Sociopathy,
Yeah.
I'll even admit that like there may be, I'm not 100% sure on the numbers, but there's a much higher likelihood that these people are able to be treated and like rehabilitated, right?
Hmm.
Whereas psychopathy, the numbers just don't show that. As from everything that I've seen, and I
Well,
didn't bring sources, but I
okay,
could find you some.
but there's also
Um,
but there are people who do like heinous acts that aren't a psychopath or a sociopath, right? They
for
just
sure.
like yeah. And do you think that we should be able to try to rehabilitate those people, or do you think they should just get the death penalty too?
Yeah. If I'm honest, yeah, sure. I think that, like I said, the only reason that I support the death penalty is because of psychopathy. These people
Okay.
that don't have empathy or remorse for their actions, if reintegrated into society, there's been a few cases where somebody has um, committed acts of like sexual assault, kind of got away with it, but they did some prison time, get out, and they're like, oh, we'll never do it again. Blah blah blah. Went through all the therapy, went through all the fucking treatments. There's a lot of cases of this where like 10 years later they're doing it again. They're raping kids, and it's like, okay, well,
Well,
fine.
that's because
Or
that's
what,
because they.
adults or whatever their
Well, that's because
fucking thing
also,
is.
but so you also we've talked about this before. You also support just like me, some sort of like national, uh, like therapy, right? Some sort of like psychological treatment for everybody. Um,
I think
but
everyone should have access to it, and I think
yeah,
that insurances should probably integrate it into their
and I would
thing,
probably
their
and
list of things they pay for sure.
yeah, and I'd probably add it to my normal food, water, shelter. I'd like psychological like treatment and therapy.
Yeah, when it gets into like tax money, that's where we differ a little bit. But yeah,
But we and yeah, and this would fix a lot of problems if people like if people could have access
yeah,
to
but
like
the
therapy.
therapy is not reliable, right? That's what I'm saying. For these people, this specific group of people, the
Isn't it
therapy
better to
is not
try though?
reliable.
Isn't it better to always try
Yeah,
before you do
it's
anything?
great to try before it happens, but after it happens, they're not like
Well,
they'll
even after,
they
well, I'm
repeat
saying even
offense all
after,
the time.
even well, even after the act, isn't it still better to try to rehabilitate them, even if it is like
Yeah,
low?
well, maybe. Yeah,
And
but
isn't is
the problem is, how do you distinguish whether or not a sociopath is truly rehabilitated or lying to
well
get out of the
that's
system?
well that's when you have actual professionals. Professionals can easily pick up on like the subtle tones and shifts of people
I
with
don't
these
know if
kind of
it's
conditions.
easy.
Well,
I mean,
it's for a
it depends on
professional
the
for a
intelligence of the
professional
sociopath, right?
for a professional it takes a lot to trick like a professional like therapist or psychologist. It takes a lot to
How
even be able to
many?
trick them.
Yeah, what amount or what percentage of psychologists do you think could accurately predict um, the intent of a sociopath? Right?
Um, Intent is different. I don't think the intent is the same thing. Like
Do they?
that's
No, I would say, do they intend to repeat offend? Right? How would you be able to predict that if they're
um
rehabilitated or whether or not they're gonna
like what
reoffend? Do you
do
think that
like
we could
what
accurately
I think
with our current system accurately predict that?
like what I think the percentage could be, or what I think like or what it actually is, because I don't know the actual numbers.
Do you think it's a high number, like the number of professional psychologists or yeah
Like
psychologists
yeah,
that are able to predict that?
depends on what you classify as professional.
Um, yeah,
Because
no, I mean
someone
just
because someone
any
just going
psychiatrist, right?
like
Because you're a
someone so,
professional with an MD.
like someone just going through the schooling, I wouldn't call them a professional. Just because you get like the 8 to 10 years of schooling doesn't mean that you're now a professional at the field. It's something that you have
I
to
agree.
actually practice and be a part of for upwards of like 20 plus years before you could even
Hmm.
before I would classify someone as professional. If we're doing just anyone that is a psychologist or anything like that, very low. It's like probably lower. It's probably like less than 10% maybe. But if we're talking about actual
Yeah.
professionals that have gone through like the schooling and have gone through the actual training for over 20 years, an actual professional, then I would
Hmm.
that number shoots up extensively, probably upwards of 60-70%.
Yeah. So yes, but what I'm saying is, if we're admitting that every psychologist or yeah psychologist is with an MD or a PhD, those people are technically professionals, right? So
Technically.
those are the people that we're going to call in, right? We're not going to call in, oh, well, we only want somebody with 20 years of experience, right? We're going to call in whatever professional is willing to do it for the, like, give their professional opinion for the system, right? And then those people are probably not always going to be reliable. So
Well,
if they let somebody off that could commit offense again or could
well, we're talking about ideal
reoffend,
system.
right? Like
We're
that.
we're still doing hypotheticals and
No,
like
no, no, no,
ideal
no. You
systems.
always talk ideal system. I'm talking what can we actually do? In
Well,
an ideal system, we have the empathy pill, and these people just are
well,
rehabilitated
an
instantaneously. And then I'm
ideals
like, yeah, let's get rid of the
no,
death penalty.
no, hold on. Ideal system with current, like with current technology and stuff, current medications, current technology. I wouldn't classify someone
Yes.
just getting out of college with a PhD a professional. Under my
Okay, so you would, if you could, would you make the system where you have to have 20 plus years of experience in order to identify
mhm,
the identify psychopathy and sociopathy in
yes,
criminals, and to be able to judge those people would you'd allow them to judge whether or not these people are going to reoffend and whether or not we should reintegrate them into society.
yes, I would probably do something like that. Yes, I'd change the system. Yeah,
Yeah, so maybe it might work. It might. But you know what's 100% reliable?
The death penalty.
People who murder with psych psychopathy, traits of psychopathy and sociopathy. 100% effective rate. Yeah, it just killed
Well,
them
could it
if
also be the
they've
case
already
that
murdered.
well, hold on. Could it also be the case that it's unreliable because we don't have actual professionals like helping these people? We just have these faux professionals that just got out of college. Wouldn't
We can't
having
even stop them from like abusing like systems and stuff. Like I don't know how you're going to stop them from murdering. Like it's the same shit. If we can't reliably stop a sociopath from like
constant monitoring,
there's from what?
constant monitoring, not just like
Oh,
video
so you want
like
to remove
cameras.
the freedoms of these
Well,
individuals
not like
before they
cameras and not cameras and stuff. No, I or recording devices. No, I mean like monitoring, as in like, hey, come into
right?
this therapist for like uh for
Hold
like
on, you lagged out
every
a little bit there for me.
fuck
Sorry.
uh like you need to like come to this therapist every, let's say, like every month to every 3 months or whatever. That kind of monitoring, like a
Hmm.
parole cop of some kind, but instead it's a therapist.
Yeah.
It's not
Well,
removing
yeah.
it's not
I'm not
removing
saying we need to
freedom.
kill them all.
It's not, but
No,
it's not, but I think we
it
can do that
kind of
with
is if you
anyone.
mandate it, right?
Not necessarily, no.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a
hey,
form of
hey,
freedom that's
well,
removed,
like,
right? Like
hey,
parole
hey,
officers. Do you think that's
uh,
removing freedom?
well, it's you also by committing an act, you end up removing the freedom of someone else, regardless of what the crime is, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying the only way that this system would be effective is if we were monitoring them before the acts of crime were committed. We identify that these people are psychopaths and sociopaths,
Well,
right?
I don't want to
Before they
monitor
commit the
people.
crime, and then we
That's
have
the
to monitor them.
I don't want to monitor people before they do anything because they didn't actually do anything yet. It's only after the crime is when I think monitoring is like necessary. Like
Yeah, and it's
I
only
don't.
after the crime where I think murder is necessary, right? Or not even murder, just killing, because I don't consider it murder. If
I
you
classify
earn
as
the
murder.
if you earn the death.
Anyways, anything else? We've exhausted this pretty well.
Yeah, I still love you.
I love you too, man. All right,
Um,
Luna, what else you got?
yeah, Luna, you're
Um,
a topic coach.
I was actually going to ask you about your views on abortion,
Okay,
and then also on homelessness, what you would do about the homelessness issue,
I
if you
mean,
just delete them all, or if you put them
I
in rehab,
delete
or
them
what.
all. Just delete. No,
Oh,
okay.
you weren't in the call yesterday, bro. I fucking all right. So I was telling a story about how like 3 years ago my views on homeless people were fuck, dude. They're just like breaking into cars and shit and sleeping in the middle of the road and shit. Fucking kill them all. That was 3 years ago.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so
Yeah,
abortion.
like I'm not
I
unhinged anymore.
so
Okay.
I'm a moderate. I support abortion up to 20 weeks.
20 weeks.
Yeah,
So,
I'm a moderate
okay,
when it comes to that.
okay. Um, that's not a radical view. I feel like so if you support abortion bef- before 20 weeks, right?
Yeah,
Up to
before.
20 weeks.
Hmm.
Does that make you pro-life or pro-choice? I don't know
Uh,
what's the
it would technically
like the
be
line that's
I
drawn.
mean, it'd be under pro-choice because it still allows abortion. Um, but I mean, they're not people before like even 22 to 24 weeks. Like they're not a person under my view. So their life doesn't matter.
Okay, a one more quick follow-up question.
Okay.
Would you support laws that allowed women to get late-term abortions at all under any
Un-
circumstance, or is it a hard
under
line no?
under a strict circumstance of like the life of the mother, because you don't tend to find that out until much later in the pregnancy, like upwards of the third trimester, before it's coming out, when you realize, oh shit, this will actually kill me if I have it. Let's do something about that. But I think we should try to make it to where both lives can be saved, but with a priority of the mother.
Okay. And then with that exception excluded, why do you not support other reasons why someone might want to get an abortion post 20 weeks?
Yeah, because at that point
Like, let's say you don't
I
want
s-
a kid.
well, like I see the fetus at that point as a person. How I classify a person is consciousness. Before that 20 weeks, they don't have the capability of forming that consciousness until that 22 to 24 with the a certain part of the brain being formed. I can't remember the exact name. But once that's formed, there is some rudimentary consciousness that is there, and that's what I would classify as a person is a human that has a consciousness.
Okay, gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay, homelessness.
Homelessness.
Thoughts?
Well, I mean,
What
you
should we
kind
do about it?
well, I would preferably try to give everyone the food, water, shelter they need to survive universally. So homelessness wouldn't really be a problem unless you wanted to be homeless, in which case there could be some psychological thing going on, which I also support, like access to therapists and psychologists, so those people can get the necessary help they need, so they can start looking at homes.
What about addiction? So a lot of homeless people also struggle with addiction or mental
Yeah.
illness.
Well,
So what would you do
that gets into
about
that gets
addiction
into
then?
well, that gets into psychology and the therapists and stuff for people that want to quit but they can't because of reasons. That shit's really hard to get off of. But I do support drugs. I want to legalize all drugs. There's another very hot take. But I also support safe injection sites like what y'all have in Canada.
Oh, I was gonna ask you that next. I was gonna
Yeah.
be like, okay, are you
I support
um
safe injection sites,
harm
yes.
reduction or abstinence? Harm reduction model or abstinence? So you're pro harm reduction then
Mhm.
if you support
Yes.
safe
Yeah.
injection sites.
Mhm.
Huh,
But
interesting.
but I also
Okay,
support
that's
I
definitely a liberal.
I also support
Mm,
legalizing all drugs. So,
okay, that's definitely super. Those are two very progressive progressive positions.
yes, they very much
Um,
are.
hmm.
So I support
Okay.
nukes. I support recreational nukes, and I support
Yes.
legalizing all drugs, and I support welfare,
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, and I support abortion.
Gun
Yeah,
ownership
yeah. Well,
and you're anti or death penalty.
and anti-death penalty.
I don't
Yeah,
know. You actually strike me as you seem to have more left leaning positions than you have right leaning positions.
yeah,
I'd put you
probably.
center left.
Uh, you want to? You is that like your final answer, or you want to keep going?
I feel you are reminding me of Destiny. I'm sure you know who Destiny is, right?
Who? No, I'm kidding.
Destiny,
I'm
the
kidding.
streamer.
I'm literally in his
Oh.
fucking. I'm in his server. Yeah, of course I know who that is.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
I don't recognize your username.
I'm mostly in the
Um.
VCs.
It's it's also different on my server.
Yeah.
Ah,
I'm
I
using
see.
my this is my stream name.
Oh yeah, Sonic. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you remind me of Destiny, like his flavor of progressivism, where he's like still pretty pro gun, pro free speech. Um, but basically on most other issues he would lean left. So
Mhm.
also your answer about government, if it should be small or big. Also your answer about the stimulus checks that were handed out, like the economic policies during COVID. Um, also your answer about taxes. I think I'm comfortable landing on that as my guess that you're center left.
Okay. Can you give like a an political ideology that you think I would fall under?
Oh, political ideology.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know enough about the different types of political ideologies except on the extremes.
Well,
So
do you
like,
know what do you know
communist.
do you know
Yeah.
Destiny's political ideology? Like what he is? Because I'm close to
I
that.
forget.
I'm not quite it, but I'm pretty close to it. He's a social democrat.
Oh right, yeah, I was gonna say that.
Mhm. I'm close to that, but I'm not quite that.
Uh yeah. I know someone else from the server who's a social democrat. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Social democrats remind not remind me because it's not like I was alive then, but like how I imagine people who were left like in the 80s,
What? Like
like people who were
most of Europe
progressive
is,
like
yeah, a lot of
40
Europe,
years ago.
especially Scandinavia, is social democrat. So
Yeah. Um, I don't know if you know this, but in Canada, at least according to a lot of Americans, the boundaries of like our right versus our left leaning parties are
Mhm.
still not as far right and not as far left as Americans. So we are just
yeah,
naturally more moderate in general.
yeah, y'all are just a bunch of
So
commies,
a
right?
social
Canada's just
democrat,
a bunch of commies.
yeah. Um, Yeah, but a soper. I can't talk
Soper,
today. I'm really tired. A
you're good, man.
social democrat. If you were to superimpose that on the Canadian political spectrum, that would still probably be like more of the farther left, maybe,
Well,
um, than
like
center
Biden. Well,
left, because
Biden in the
there's
U.S.
shorter
He'd be,
range.
but like
Hmm.
Biden, Bernie, a lot of the Democratic Party in the U.S. is social democrat.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders. Is he still alive?
Yeah, he is. He's still kicking.
Must be like 100 years old.
No, he's probably in his like 70s, 80s.
Not a centurion yet.
Not quite. He might not get there. I don't know. He's just kind of chilling.
Yeah, the Queen lived a long time. She lived to
Yeah,
her 90s.
yeah.
She's
Rest
pretty
in
crazy.
peace.
We always made a bunch of jokes that she was immortal.
Yeah, she looked the same for like 40 years.
Yeah.
She kind of looked 80 for the last, yeah,
You want to hear something
for
wild?
a long time.
You want to hear a historical wild thing?
Go for it.
That
I
Anne
do.
Frank and MLK Jr. were born in the same year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's sad.
And also
You
the
think
first,
about the life that Anne Frank could have had.
yeah,
She died so young.
yeah. And then that I think it's Oxford. It's the oldest college. It was built when the pyramids were first being built.
Oh, wow. I just realized how ignorant I am. Because if someone quizzed me on like what era the pyramids mapped to, I couldn't even ballpark it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know
They're
if it's
fucking
like
old. They're old.
thousands of years ago or
Well, there's like
yeah, I need to brush up on my history.
there's that fun fact going around about the founding fathers being like in their 20s
Mm-hmm.
on average, and most people didn't know that. And the powder
Yeah.
wigs start you off, though. I think
Yeah,
that's
they
what it
do. They
was.
also every painting of them looks old as fuck, too. Makes them look a
Yeah.
lot older than they are.
Listen, if you're fighting the British,
You might have a couple of gray hairs,
you
okay?
got them wrinkles. Yeah, you got them wrinkles going. I'm
It's like
just
what
saying. You could
it's
be
like what the
27,
presidency.
but
It's like what the presidency did of fucking Obama. He used to like have like full head of black hair and everything, and now he's just a bunch of gray.
yeah, yeah. I know.
Yeah.
He went
So,
from 40 to 70 in 8 years. Yeah.
but anyways, so I identify myself as a social libertarian.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Libertarian. I was getting libertarian when you started talking about how you feel first of all about nukes, and
but
then
also
also the
small
death
government.
penalty when you said the government.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah, but then the whole nukes thing,
yeah,
especially like when you were talking about sentencing and how the government shouldn't be able to decide who lives and who
yeah.
dies.
The collective. Yeah,
Um,
I
yeah, I actually have a libertarian friend on Discord, like a
cool.
hardcore libertarian.
Yeah, I get called
We're
a
always arguing
socialist
with
all the
each
time.
other.
I get called a commie socialist a lot.
I don't know how you can
Wow.
say you're for small government and then want like universal food, water, shelter.
Well, like it's focused, right? Like it's not.
No, but that's a massive project, dude.
It
That's
yeah, it's
big
no,
government.
but it's not necessarily big government. No, it's just because you have like let's say one big social program that affects everyone doesn't mean that it's therefore big government. It's a focused program for a very specific thing, which is basic
But
essentials
you
to
said for
live.
everybody.
Yeah, but that doesn't
right?
that doesn't matter. It's focused. It's a focused thing. It's about like the scope broad versus focused, right? I'm more so for the focus, like, hey, it needs to be very specific what the government does in terms of regulations, instead of it being broad, like I gave the example with the parking lots. Like it shouldn't apply to every business, it only should apply to a handful of businesses. Focus, not broad. That's the difference between big and small government.
Yeah, but I feel like the difference is the amount of, well, and this is just a feeling, right? I think
Hmm.
the difference between big and small government to me is like the amount of effect they have over my immediate day to day life, right? And I feel like if you
Well,
put
it
them in,
I mean, it doesn't affect
but
your data. If you're not using it, it doesn't affect you personally, right?
yeah, but what percentage of people would be using it? Right?
People that need it mostly, right? Like people in poverty probably would end up using it more
Like
than,
people with food insecurity.
yeah, like food insecurity would probably use the food program. People who are homeless will be more likely to use the housing system, as well as the water and possibly even the food, which then frees up their funds and to be able to invest in the economy, which would overall raise GDP. So
Well, so the number of or the percentage of Americans that experience food insecurity is 12.8%. So 17 million Americans, right? Um,
which is it's a that's significant amount of people.
yeah, so that's the government having an like immediate effect over the day to day of 12.8% of Americans, right?
Well, yeah, but it's a focused program on the basic essentials to life. It's not. I wouldn't call that a broad. Like for me, my personal opinion of big versus small government being a broad versus narrow. This is a very narrow program that, regardless of how many people, like, it could be 100% Americans that are food insecure. It'd still be a narrow focused program on food on basic essentials to live.
Are you defining narrow focus program? It's like just because it's just food, water, and shelter, which are
Yeah,
three of like
some
that's three massive
yeah,
fucking projects.
yeah, I mean they're bigger projects, but it's narrow in the sense that, um like I gave the example of the parking lot uh thing. Instead of applying to all businesses, it applied to some businesses. This is a program that it's not a bunch of like small social programs. Um it's just in a sense one big program, but that focuses on very like small things. Right. It doesn't be like, hey, here's luxury, here's food, here's shelter, like a bunch of different programs that are scattered. It's just one program that focuses on one very single thing, which is survivability, basically.
So you don't think that like Social Security is big government activity? You don't think like,
I don't support Social Security, actually.
well, I'm asking, is it big government?
Like as it is right then, maybe not. I haven't done like extensive research on
Well,
how Social
one
Security
system, right?
functions. Well, I haven't done extensive research on how it functions, to be able to give a
Is the
very
ATF?
I mean the ATF is it I don't like the ATF, so
Well, yeah, I'm not asking if you like them. I'm asking, do you think it's like big or small government, right?
well, the problem with our current government is it's very broad. Like it focuses on several things at the same time, and some of them do the exact same thing, but it's two different programs. Or a bunch of different programs that do the exact same thing when it's inefficient and it's not necessary. It's very broad in how it functions.
Well, the IRS has one function, right? It's taxing, right? That's their only function, but that's still big government.
Um, well, the problem with the IRS is that there's so many different kinds of taxes that it ended up becoming big government on its own, right? Like while the IRS as a single entity has a self function of taxes, that function of taxes is very broad in how it works and what is taxed, which is everything you do in terms of like how you spend or gain money, thus
Yeah, but
making the IRS
that's
by nature
inevitable
broad.
with bureaucratic systems, right? That's inevitable with bureaucracy in general. And the system that you're proposing has inevitable bureaucracy. Like that has to happen because otherwise you're not able to properly distribute the necessary
Well, we've
resources.
we've talked about this. I would have the distribution go to the smallest factor, and then slowly, uh, like not necessarily broaden, but like it gets less power as it goes up the chain. So like your local is going to be a lot stronger in terms of like what the area needs than the federal coming down and be like, hey, this is what this area gets because this is what we think they
Yeah,
need.
who's funding it?
Uh, the taxpayer.
So federal taxes?
I mean, I would
Because
have
you
like
talked about pulling funding from the military to do this.
well, yeah, I would. I mean, I would have
In a
a land.
separate conversation to clarify to viewers, just sorry, just saying.
No,
Yeah,
we
separate conversation.
we
You did.
talked a little bit here. We talked a little bit about that here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like I don't support things like income tax or like non-choice based tax systems. I don't support like income or property tax, but rather I'd probably have like a federal land value tax. Um, and then like most of taxes are probably more locally based, depending on what the needs of the civilians are there.
That's wild to me. So you're saying, hold on, you're saying you want to provide shelter
Yes.
and you want to take away property tax
Mm-hmm.
and
Property
you want to
tax. Yeah.
provide food and water to people. So
Yeah.
there's no incentive to work at all outside of just interest.
No, there is because you still need entertainment, and you still have to work to get entertainment, even if it's just working a McDonald's job, like we talked about before in a different conversation. You're still providing something to the economy, and there's only a limited amount of McDonald's jobs, so people end up having to work in other sectors of the economy. But people still need to work to get entertainment.
Yeah, how many people are gonna work like important careers to
Most
provide for
people,
entertainment?
most
I
people,
don't think
and
so.
well, also a
Can you
lot
give
of
me one
people.
example of this
Well,
ever
it's not even
thing?
just entertainment.
Like,
It because of the selfish nature of people in general. They see what other people have, and they want like, hey, I want that too. They're going to end up working more essential jobs that'll pay them more, so they can have a better means of living.
or they
Like,
turn to crime, right? Inequality leads to crime. You used to talk about this all the time. So
well,
if we
yeah,
say that,
but
oh, I don't have to work to get my home food, water, right?
well, then
And I don't have to
that
pay taxes on
just
this,
that
so
on
I
its
could
own
not work and I could
eliminates.
go rob.
Well, that's the thing is that this would end up getting rid of a lot of that wealth inequality because people have their basic necessities to life. Because that's probably one of the biggest
Oh,
reasons why people commit crime is because they are insecure about their basic survivability.
I don't know if that's true.
Like if you're in a
Yeah,
bad,
I
if
don't.
you're
I don't think
well,
that's
it's also a
true at
lack of
all.
it's also a lack of education, right?
Yeah,
Like you've talked about before, which we both support, like better like education reforms.
yeah, but higher education leads to higher incomes, and why go to higher education if you're not trying to earn a fatter paycheck? Just because you're interested in a field, but
Well,
then
a
you
lot
don't
of
go into things
well,
like
that's the thing. A lot of people they only go into fields not because it has higher pay. Most people go into fields like me in psychology because it's something that I like to do. It's something that I want to do, and therefore
yeah,
I
but those situations tend to have worse economic outcomes, right? And like if we had, let's say, because right now psychology is like I think number 5 on the list of most achieved degrees, right? Like we don't need. I mean, right now we probably do, but eventually we're gonna have too many therapists, right? So
it's not just therapy, right? There's several different sectors. Like people want to become police
yeah,
officers, people want to become firefighters, people want to do all these several different things.
but I feel like you're taking away the incentive structure for that.
It's not about there. Do you think the only incentive to do anything is income? Like the level of income you get?
I think it's a massive. I think it's a massive incentive. Yes.
You don't think there's any other incentive that matters just as
I
much?
think there's plenty of career fields that have other incentives, like people who uh, the join like the police force. Some of them want to just make the world a better place for sure. Some of them to join the fire department so that they can like help the community. And some people want to be doctors because they want to help people. A lot of people join like the medical fields because they want to make a lot of money.
Oh yeah, but that
Like,
ends up leading to
that's
bad doctors, right? Which you don't want anyways. You want people who are
not
actually
necessarily.
you want people who are invested in it, and not people who only want to do it for money, because that ends up leading to bad outcomes if people's only incentive is to just for income.
Not necessarily, because you have like in capitalism, if you treat your customers like shit, theory they don't go to you,
Well,
right?
that's different from
Like if
public sector,
you
right? If you're in the
lead to
public
bad
sector,
outcomes,
that's if you're in the public sector, that doesn't matter, right?
well, yeah. I mean, what do you mean that doesn't matter? Hold on.
Well, because the public sector is opposite of capitalism, right? It's not. I mean, it's something I do support. But it's anti-capitalist on how it functions. There is the customer base is the public for the police. It doesn't serve a single
Mhm.
individual. It serves everybody. So regardless if so they can treat their people like shit. They can treat the public like shit, but the public still pays them anyways because it's a public service.
Yeah, not necessarily though, because you can elect new officials that change the system. Right?
Yeah, you
So
can. Yeah,
democracy rules.
you can do that. Yes, but that
Yeah,
doesn't mean that
capitalism is just democracy with money.
but that
It's
doesn't mean the system necessarily changes, right? It's still a public. It's still public. Still a public system.
no, but it does though. Like if you elect somebody that goes, well, I'm going to reform the police, uh, the 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 police system, then they go in there and they don't reform the police system, then you're definitely not getting reelected, right?
Yeah, but if
But you go in
everyone,
there and you
but
do reform the police system, then people are going to go, oh well, maybe right, maybe we elected you for this. You did what you said you were going to do. We're going to reelect you, right? It's the same with capitalism.
but
Capitalism is like, oh hey, I ordered this good or service, right? And then you like underperform or you don't give them the good that they actually asked for or like none of the promises were met in the product description, and then you have options of like maybe I could sue them. If you don't want to sue them, you just stop buying their product, you post a bad review, the public goes, yeah, this product was shit, right? And then
but
the
you can't
prices
just
have to go
not.
down for them to be able to sell it or they
You
go out of
can't
business and it's just bad.
you can't just not use a public service though. It's just there. You're
Yeah,
still
but you
paying,
can elect different people.
but that doesn't matter.
That
That doesn't
literally
matter.
matters.
It literally doesn't matter.
I mean, it
It
does.
still
Yeah,
is.
you're going to pay taxes, but the reason you pay taxes is because you use the service and you can
Yeah.
elect the
Well,
people
that's
that
also the thing
represent
is
that
that you
service.
also. What if you don't use the service, right? And you're still paying taxes on it, which is fine. But like, but it's different from capitalism, where like, hey, I am paying for this. I am using it directly because I paid for it directly. Like I pay for Netflix, so I'm going to use Netflix, right? Um, if I don't want to use
So
Netflix, I
you
won't
don't
pay
think
for
we should?
Netflix.
So you don't think we should pay for things that we don't use
No, I
in
didn't say
like
that
the
at all.
public sector?
No, I didn't say that at all.
No,
But
I'm
it's no,
asking.
I'm saying. Well, I think that I mean taxes should apply to everybody. That's just kind of how it is, and the funding should apply to the necessary things. But I'm
Yeah,
saying but I'm saying that's different from how it works in capitalism because if you don't use a service under capitalism, then you don't have to pay for it. Whereas in a
yeah.
public
No, I see what you're
service,
saying. Yeah,
but public service is the complete opposite of that. Regardless if you use it or not, you're still paying for it.
yeah, I see what you're saying. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, of course.
So it's
Because
anti-capital.
eventually I will need an ambulance. Eventually I will need a fucking
But
fire
it's
fighter to
but
come to
maybe not.
put out the fucking house.
I could go my entire life without ever using the police or an ambulance or a fire brigade. It's
Yeah.
possible that I could, but I can go my entire life without using these things, but I still pay for it anyways.
Yep.
So it's not capitalist. It's
Well,
anti-capitalist.
it's essentially insurance, right?
It's an insurance, sure, but it's still not. I would say insurance is anti-capitalist as well.
Listen, I don't pay taxes because I'm like, oh, I can't wait to help out some other person, right? With the fire department shit. I'm like, no, I pay
Well,
taxes so that when I need the fire department, it's here.
well, you pay taxes because you live here. You utilize our resources. It's part of the social contract. So just by
Yeah,
living
but what
here,
if I
you
don't utilize the
just
resources?
well, that's the thing.
Right?
Just by living
That's what your
here.
argument was.
Well, no, it's just by. I'm saying that's the reason why it's anti-capitalist, and but just it's part of a social contract that you are here. You are utilizing the U.S.'s resources. Um, therefore you have to abide by its rules and regulations, and part of those rules and regulations are taxes.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll agree it's anti-capitalist. Yeah, sure. Like if the better way in a capitalist system, I'm not saying it's better. Okay, I'll take that
Yeah.
back. But the way it would work in a capitalist system would be you'd have your private security essentially,
Oh yeah,
and that would be the
that
police
against
force.
that against the ANCAP stuff, which I'm against all that. Anyways, I don't think there should be private police. Anyways, I'm okay with public sector stuff. I'm just
Oh,
saying that
agreed.
it's.
Yeah,
I'm just saying it's anti-capitalist, and it's just what it is.
yeah, I agree. But that's I yeah, I don't know how we got here from like the big government,
Well,
but
it's
we
through
rabbit
we
hole.
went through the IRS and social programs, and then we went through taxation, and then that's how we got into like what our taxes fund.
Yeah, but that's still like
I
the
know how we
tax
got
system's
here.
big government due to like bureaucracy. So going back to your system that you were talking about imposing, it's necessarily bureaucratic.
There would be some bureaucracy. I mean, you can't really avoid bureaucracy in any governmental system unless you absolutely remove the government altogether.
Yep. And you're saying it's going to be it's going to be federal spending that controls this, which means the federal government's going to
Well, no,
want control over where
well,
that
hold
money
on.
goes.
I said there would be a federal land value tax, and that can contribute to social programs as well, like a
Yeah,
universal
but
land
it's
value.
federal money that goes to the food, water, shelter, right?
It would some of it would go to that, but I think a lot of the funding would come from the local level, the state level. Most fun, like
So you're going to
most funding comes from the states, anyways, for their own
I
interests,
think
their own systems.
I think a better system for what you're talking about would be if you wanted to implement this on the state level so that state companies and state like uh, resources can go where necessary. The state controls the means of distribution.
Hmm.
They right. You're not dipping into the pocket of large government, because when you dip into the pocket of large government, then the large government wants to know where everything's going and wants to have some form of control over that because they have a right to it. I don't think they should have a right to it. I think they should stay in their corner, and we should do things that better our states. Things like food, water, shelter, like a homeless problem in California is not a federal issue. That is not at all a federal issue. That is a state issue. They need to worry about that on the state level. When you start bringing the government in to solve these problems, you're asking for big government. Like the federal government doesn't. Yeah, they're not good at that. It's not.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's not what they're designed for.
Like if I had full control over Kentucky, I would try to implement these kinds of systems locally, and hopefully it spreads to the rest of the states. I do believe that states should be able to individually do however they want. Um, like if they don't want this, then they're not forced to. It would just be a preferable system to anything else.
So it sounds like you agree with me that it should be on the state level completely.
Like I think in term like yeah, distribution and stuff should absolutely funding is a very big program and would take a lot of funding for sure. That I don't know if
I
the
don't think it
state
would.
individual for food, water, shelter
Yeah.
universally to everyone in a state.
Oh, yeah, no, you're still in the universal. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no, I'm still universal.
yeah, I was looking I'm all for this if we're like the people who need it can have it,
Well,
right?
that's
And
a
then
nice
it's
middle
voted
ground.
in by
That's
the
that's a
well,
nice
it's like
middle ground
if
then,
you
right?
vote it in as well, right? Like if you're not taking it to a federal vote, you're taking it to a local vote where I have way more say over who gets like I have more direct say over who's going into certain positions of power in my local government, right? So if I vote for this person and I can actually go and talk to him, I can be like, "Hey man, I think we should probably implement this." Then it's like the people are more directly voting for that process to be enacted. Whereas if the federal government does it, I feel like you're going to get a fuck ton of pushback.
Well,
Yeah, but
well,
anyway,
also
but
it
yeah, I'm
doesn't.
good with the middle ground.
I'm also because I also don't support like limited because that inherently destroys the incentivization, right? That just causes incentivization problems. We talked about before, like one of the reasons why you're against some other social programs, and with your anecdotal thing from our last conversation, that someone that you knew, friend or whatever it be, they didn't they worked less and took less opportunities because they were going to lose their benefits. And if someone is going to lose their benefits, they're less likely to like advance anywhere in any career. Which is why I'm more so against like
Yeah, but I
limiting
wouldn't
it.
put a blank check. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Well,
My bad.
that's why I'm against like having it limited and only applying to some people. If it applies to everybody equally, then there is no incentivization to not take like better career options because you're still going to get the service anyways.
I mean, there kind of is, right? But uh, regardless, my middle ground here would be state enacted, limited to the individuals that need it, and with a timeline.
But still have food, water, shelter.
Here's the amount of, yeah, food, water, shelter, but here's the timeline, and here's the services that we can give you to like if you are offered trade training and stuff like that, where it's like we can help you get the education that you need to get into a higher earning position. You have this amount of time to do it, and after this amount of time, you if you haven't succeeded in like setting yourself up for success, then the system's not going to fucking baby you, and you've got to like adults. Sorry.
All right, I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. I've been drinking a lot. Luna, go ahead and give any thoughts or anything on this.
Okay. Thoughts. Um, I don't know. Interesting back and forth. I think I remember what had prompted it was Mango was challenging you on the fact that
Oh,
you said you
he's not
support.
here. You're talking to him.
Oh yeah, he walked away. That's true. I wonder how
Yeah.
many people are like listening, like how big the
I got the stream
viewers.
pulled up. It looks like last I checked was 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're at 1 now. It's me.
Yeah, I don't really. Okay, well, I don't really have any immediate thoughts. Hmm.
Well,
Maybe
then
it's
I'm gonna
broad
use the
how we.
restroom as well. Oh, fuck. She's talking.
Okay, yeah, no, go for it. Go for it.
All right.
Go
Bathroom break.
ahead.
What did I miss?
No, you
Hello?
didn't miss
Oh,
anything.
oh. You didn't give your
Hello? Can
thoughts?
you hear me?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can hear you. Yeah.
Um. Yeah, you guys said a lot, so I don't know if I have any specific comments on what you guys were saying,
Yeah.
but I wonder. So I've heard people give different representations or try to give different representations of how to place people on the political spectrum because like using that linear format is not super helpful or all
Yeah.
encompassing.
Mhm.
So like, oh, you're either right or you're left. Like I've seen people use the quadrant, and then there was someone on DGG who used this really elaborate sort of model. And I think more and more that I listen to people share their political views, I agree that just using a linear spectrum is not super helpful or all encompassing. Um, the quadrant's pretty helpful though.
Yeah, the quad
Like if
like
you fall,
the more you add,
yeah.
the better it is. Like a cube is going to be better in terms
Mhm.
of like figuring where people are than the quadrants are versus a line. And then you add like the
Mhm.
more you add, the better, the more accurate it is. But then it becomes like unreadable.
Yeah, actually, I have a good question for you
Hmm.
to gauge where you fall.
Yeah.
I know now, but I should have asked this first. Is like, who do you find that you agree with the most online, or not just streamers like Destiny, but like actual intellectuals or thinkers? Like, I'd put Jordan Peterson in that category. Any names come to mind?
Uh,
People?
I mean, like, mm, For like political activists and stuff, Destiny definitely. I align a lot with Destiny. I really like Biden actually, Joe Biden. For intellectual thinkers, like people who actually like study politics and stuff. Um, I don't know too many of them to be able to give a good answer because I don't really look too much into that because I'm more interested in like the debates and the thoughts.
Fair enough.
I feel like
I
you
know a lot
have
of
to
people.
be some sort of like political thinker, right, to like be able to debate. You have to
Uh,
have some sort of well thought out like worldview, I
I'm a
think.
really big fan of
I mean,
Henry
you can go in there
George.
and lose a debate.
I'm really a
Go
big fan
ahead.
of Henry George. He's a 19th century thinker.
19th century thinker.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, Henry
Yeah, it got me
George.
thinking when I don't remember who briefly brought up the founding fathers, but they were all people who were obviously super opinionated
Yeah,
and also very headstrong in their beliefs, but
they're
also
also
really
quite different.
intelligent, intellectual people. Yeah, like I
R-
saw Alexander Hamilton the musical, and I don't even like musicals, and I loved it. Like wow, he really is brilliant. Um,
They all kind of were, dude. Those guys are fucking
yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of IQ, they must have all been geniuses. But then how do like so many people with that level of intellect find each other at the same time, same place, same point in history? If you think about it, it's pretty lucky, like the right combination of people joining their minds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the founding
Did
fathers.
you comment on your own?
No,
Was that you?
no,
I'm on the is that not you? That
no,
I'm watching your fucking other Twitch channel here.
no. It's not.
What are your thoughts on that?
As for tits, personality.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
personality.
personality.
I don't know how you can be an ass man if I'm honest. Sorry,
I like,
derailing the
I like,
conversation.
I
But
like tits more than ass, but I like personality more than anything else.
I mean, I know tits aren't gonna blow hot gas.
True.
Oh wait, you're not gonna ask my opinion?
Hey, Luna,
How
what's
rude.
your ass for tits?
I'm kidding.
No, for
I'm
real.
You're
joking.
Nah.
you're
What you got?
Listen,
kidding?
Nah,
hey,
now you have to. Now you have to answer. Yeah, ass for
I
tits.
p- I reject the false dichotomy and I pick option 3, the
Yeah,
non-existent
actually,
one.
I think I'm a belly button guy personally.
Oof. I like the nostrils personally.
Well, but then the question's begged, right? Like innie or outie.
In your outie. I don't know. You can go deeper in an innie. So
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Jesus
whoa!
Christ.
Settle down,
it really depends.
Statecraft.
It depends on what
Um,
you have down there, right? If you have a penis, then you're probably gonna say innie. If you don't, you're gonna say outie. Just
Okay.
I have an innie.
you have an innie. I have an
Moving
innie
on.
too. Yeah. Shoot me your best
Yeah,
shot.
outies kind of look strange.
As the great philosopher Eminem said, if your belly button's not an innie, then I'm out.
True.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway.
so poetic.
Mamas, what are you fucking
So,
doing? So
what are we doing?
my
Yeah,
cat
that's
keeps
the
fucking
question.
jump. My cat keeps jumping up on my chair, trying to have me pet him.
Do we want to here? I've got a list of things here we can go over if you'd like. Let me see. Where's it at?
You
There we
see
go.
him? You see him? You
Jesus
see?
Actually,
Christ.
your video is not showing for me anymore. Showing
It's
you
Dang.
that
have bad
Canadian internet.
connectivity.
True. At least
Yeah, I
it's not
think
as bad
it's
as
Bad
the Aussie.
Canadian
definitely
internet.
It's not as bad as them Aussies. Wow. So you can't comment on my cat. Alright, you can get down, you little shit. No, get down. Get down. Good boy.
My cat's cuter, but yours
No,
is okay.
fuck you.
All right, we're gonna get into the real hard hitting question. All right,
Yeah, go ahead.
animal dissection, should that be allowed in schools now?
Yes. It's just teaching biology. So, yes.
Luna?
This is a
Luna.
trick question. Sometimes questions that apparently are apparently controversial blow my mind. Like that there isn't just one standard answer that everybody gives.
Well, it depends if you're like you
Well, yeah,
support PETA or
you've
not,
got your
right?
PETA guys.
It
I
depends on what.
PETA. Like, do you support PETA or not? Basically, like, are you like an animal rights activist, like vegan?
Ah, I see.
Yeah, I support animal
Makes sense.
dissection. Of course, if the animal's already fucking dead, then yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I've heard people criticize animal testing, for on like cancer drugs. We test them on rats. I've also heard people obviously who are upset with animal testing on makeup, like cosmetic products. So I'm of the opinion. Wait a minute, has my opinion been asked before I start sharing it?
Just share it. Doesn't matter.
Okay, because I don't know if you guys are like doing your little debate. But
He's muted right now.
where was I
He
going with
can't
that?
speak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so for me, everything is about balance. So, do I support hunting? Yes. Do I support recreational hunting? Probably not. I support hunting if it's like you're doing it because you intend on eating the animal. So, do I support animal testing? Yes. Do I support animal testing for things that humans don't really need? No. I think it's not, it is cruel to, subject an animal to what is essentially torture. Like giving an animal cancer is torture, but the benefit that comes from it for humans outweighs that in my opinion. But I don't see that argument holding true for like makeup.
Yeah, for things like health,
If makeup's
then
not
animal test
essential.
for health
Yeah,
animal testing is okay, but otherwise probably not. Right?
exactly.
Okay. I mean
Exactly.
that sounds like a moderate take. I don't see anything controversial with that.
Yeah, I remember a bunch of girls in my high school class started crying because our chemistry teacher, he actually had a PhD. So it's kind of weird that he was a high school teacher, not teaching at a university. But
Hmm.
he talked up to us one day about the experiments that he did when he was like a graduate student and how they would like kill the rats that they would do tests on. And he said that one of the methods was they would just snap their neck by literally like grabbing the rat and like smacking it really hard in a particular angle on the table. I'm not making this up, but it
Yeah.
would kill them instantly.
Hmm.
But it seemed very like barbaric and cruel. So a bunch of girls started crying in my class
Yeah, to a bunch of fucking children that
after
sounds
that.
terrible. Yeah, but like that's the probably the most humane way of fucking doing it.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, we were what in 12th grade or like 11th,
Jesus.
so we
That,
weren't even children.
yeah,
We were high school students.
that sounds like
We
middle
were
school.
grown.
That sounds like fucking middle schoolers whining about like the class pet like doing like passing away or some shit like that.
Yeah, not gonna lie, I thought it was kind of funny that it brought them to tears.
You're
I was
like,
like,
ha.
okay, being sad or disturbed, but like crying, come
You're
on.
like, oh my. Meanwhile,
Takes a lot more
any of
than
them
that
if
for me to cry. Like,
any of them if they saw an actual rat or mouse in real life, they'd be like fucking screaming out of the room.
so true. Oh my God, I didn't even think about it that way. That's true. They
Yeah,
probably think of rats as like really like gross animals,
yeah,
nuisances, but then suddenly have all the compassion for rats when it comes to our teacher doing experiments in grad school. See, that's what I always try to point out in people's hypocrisy and double standards. So I like people being consistent, like
Yeah,
morally consistent.
like me, right? I'm
And then I can
consistent.
even talk, oh yeah, you are the standard of consistency,
Yeah,
Statecraft.
yeah,
But yeah, so when people are consistent, they I can tolerate them having even the craziest of views. So like my friend Skull Candy is a really, really consistent libertarian. So I can respect him. But I find a lot of libertarians to be kind of goofy
yeah.
because they are yeah,
And
they're not
actually,
too
we
consistent.
talked about this on our podcast about it was the libertarian to authoritarian pipeline. That a bunch of libertarian and like a lot of people that claim to be small government or no government at all were supporting the acts of El Salvador in terms of like getting rid of due process.
Wow. There's something called
Capitalism.
anarcho capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're pretty hardcore libertarians.
Yeah, they're
Um,
fucking
it goes
insane.
hand in hand. Are you
I
familiar? Yeah,
I
they're nutty though. Like,
I fucking hate
yeah,
talk. They're so pretentious and so like it's like a purity spiral type thing. I hate talking to any of them.
I just wonder, I'm like, do you really believe what you're saying?
Yes,
I want to see
they do.
someone who supports communism who's living in a communist society. It's always the people who are
Well, that's the
not
thing. They don't
actually
exist.
experiencing the
There
system.
isn't a communist society. None of them exist.
Yeah, like the anarchists who are so headstrong in anarchy. I'm like, okay, why don't you go to Somalia then? Like, put your money where your mouth is. If you really believe in these different systems, then go live in it.
Well, that's
And
the
then if
thing.
you still believe in
They
it,
want it. They
you
want
come
it to be
back,
here.
let us know.
They don't want to go somewhere else. They want to do it here. That's the
Exactly.
problem.
It's the
Yeah,
hypocrisy. All of them are hypocrites. The environmentalists are hypocrites. Even vegans are hypocrites.
yeah.
And mind
Because
you, yeah, you go ahead.
well, yeah, they're hypocrites because they only care about the bigger animals. Once you get into like well under like if you just farm plants and stuff, that's gonna kill so many like more. It's gonna kill thousands, if not millions, of like rodents and insects and stuff, and they just don't care because they don't see it.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm like, okay, are you going to reject that? Not to keep bringing up cancer, but are you going to reject that cancer drug that was tested on those cute little mice in order to test the efficacy of it? When, God forbid if you get cancer, are you going to be like, no, well, my veganism does not allow me to,
Well,
use products that resulted in animals being harmed? No, um, that's likely not going to happen. And
I support animal and human
yeah,
testing.
this always oh snap,
Well, hold on.
we're friends.
It's
Okay,
actually
so
hold on. It's
I have
actually not that
thoughts.
bad. Hold on, it's not that bad. So I
Okay.
support like if you have to consent to it, of course, and most of the time it's going to be someone that's already on their deathbed trying experimental drugs. I support doing that as long as you consent to it.
Okay, so I've gotten in
That's
trouble on
pretty
BGG,
base.
right?
You got in trouble for that?
Yeah.
Dang,
Well, I
why?
didn't say exactly what you said, but sometimes I'm just asking questions. I'm like, can I ask the question without being crucified, without being
No,
labeled like the Antichrist on the server? Apparently
no,
not.
no.
Not this server, BGG.
You have to
But
be a socialist communist, and if you're not, then you're a dirty capitalist pig.
yes, precisely. So I said, I was like, okay, so if we just hear me out, and I'm doing a replay.
Hmm.
I was like, if we suspended ethics in research, right, then we would actually be able to we'd accelerate innovation and accelerate scientific discovery. It's because of ethics that we are not able to, because we have constraints, right? Like you can't just do like all those studies in psychology where there were very impressive conclusions that were drawn, but it violated people's human rights in
How
the process.
dare
Or
you?
like,
How dare you make those fucking statements? You sound just like Hitler and what the Nazis did.
yeah, the angel of death. So the angel of death. he actually made a lot of discoveries that
Yeah,
the science community
yeah.
collectively decided that they wouldn't use it.
Most medical research
Yeah.
nowadays was forwarded by the Nazis because of their inhumane practices.
Yeah, so basically the Nazis did nothing wrong. So basically,
It's like
that's
killing a bunch of Jews,
what he's
but
saying.
saving a bunch
Basically.
of modern people. It balances out, you know?
Yeah, it balances out.
Or like
Yeah.
eugenics. I've gotten into trouble a bit. And mind you, I'm just asking questions. I'm like, can we just talk about it without you getting all worked up and and hypersensitive? I'm not
Yeah.
saying that we shouldn't have ethics in research. I'm just saying that, hey, have you ever considered that like maybe we would have cured, I don't know, Alzheimer's or dementia
Well, see,
by
that's the
this
thing.
point if
Destiny,
we had, a little more
yeah,
leniency?
Destiny talks about this kind of stuff all the time. Is
Um,
like, hey, if you never hear anyone that actually challenges your position, you don't like interact with these people, and you just shut them down. Then when you actually get someone who's serious about it, you don't know how to respond to it.
word.
Yeah.
There was something else I was gonna say. So, Sonic, have you ever heard of Grizzly Man?
Doesn't
You ever
sound
heard of him?
familiar. It doesn't sound
It's
familiar.
American. Okay, just got
Yeah.
me thinking,
Yeah,
right?
like fucking
He's
300
the animal
million people.
activist.
Yes, I know all 300 million people in the US. Yes,
Of course, I
of
expect
course.
you to know
Yeah.
anybody whose name I bring up.
Yeah, just like
And if
how
you don't,
you
then
should know
of
all
course there's
like two
something
people in
very wrong with
Canada.
you.
You should know all two people in Canada, right?
Yeah, no, Canada, no, but on a serious note though, like Canada's has doesn't have enough people. Like we have so much land and
Well,
we all live at the
most of
US
it's
border, basically.
most of it can't is uninhabitable because it's fucking a wasteland up in the north. That's why all of y'all are
Facts.
on the fucking
And yet,
southern border with the US.
facts. And yet
Mhm.
we want to colonize Mars? I'm like, can we start with like Antarctica or like the ocean?
Well, that's the thing. It's
There's all
easier.
these
Well,
places on or like the
that's the
Amazon,
thing.
like
Well, that's the thing. It's easier
there's
to
all
go
these
to fucking
places that we can't
Mars.
even live in here.
It's easier to go to Mars. Also, we don't do the Amazon
Oh man.
because
Oh, that's actually low
of
key.
reasons.
That
Yeah.
sounds kind of badass that it's easier to live in Mars than Canada. Suddenly I feel very like
It is
badass.
definitely not easier. Holy shit. This
Now
is
I'm running with
fucking
that. Thank you,
nuts.
Sonic.
You're
Oh
Yes,
my
welcome.
we
god.
are.
Yeah.
We're Vikings.
You should
We're
tell that
Vikings
to
up here. We're
all
hardcore.
of DGG. Tell that to all of DGG.
Yeah, the rest of Earth is soft. Not like us. We're built different.
Too bad you're not
Yeah,
inhabiting
with the
the
polar bears. We're
yeah.
fighting them off daily.
Hold on. Hold on. You're not badass because you're all in the southern part, which is habitable versus the northern. So like if you're gonna be badass, you have to live up in the north.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
like
you're
low key though.
fucking.
I
Uh,
Also, you
no,
see
I was
him,
gonna say
Mango.
like
You
low
see
key. I
him.
kind of want to live in Yukon.
You see him, Mango.
I do indeed.
You see him. He's a good boy.
Average cat.
He's actually not. He's actually
Yeah,
massive.
I haven't seen your video for like half an hour, by the way. I
Jesus
just see
Christ.
your PFP.
You might have
It's up
to.
on
But
stream though. You're so good.
Yeah, you should turn
yeah,
on. You
internet.
should turn on Twitch. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, it's definitely very inconvenient with my job, but
Was that cultural appropriation right there that I just heard?
maybe. I don't
Was
know.
Ooh.
that you doing a
I don't really
Japanese accent? Jesus.
Dang.
yeah.
You know what? You know what? You never asked for my suicide take. Pretty hot.
Yeah,
It's
That's
pretty
what's
rude.
spicy. It's pretty
your
spicy.
self-deletion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I support
Um
suicide.
Wait, when you say suicide, let's just be clear. Do you mean assisted suicide or like,
Well, I
you
mean
know,
that. Yeah. I mean, if you have the right to life, you have the right to die as well. So either assisted suicide, I do support. But like I mean, if you want to die, just you're gonna find a way to do it anyway. So at least let it be in a medical setting that's safe overall. It's not gonna be messy.
but if you think about it, I feel like it's such a moot point. Not what you're saying, just in general. It's like, oh, suicide's illegal, but it's not possible to enforce it. you
Yeah.
can't revive the person from death and like put them in jail.
Yeah, it's
So,
more so the people that fail
is
to
it
actually
supposed to
do it.
be?
It's more so the people that fail to do it, you end up throwing them in, like, prison for the rest of their life, which is stupid
No
anyways.
way. Is that
Yeah,
actually a thing?
yeah,
Oh
it's
my
a real thing.
god, I didn't know that.
It's not necessarily for the rest of like, you'll end up
What? You go
in
to
the
jail?
US, you'll go to a mental institution, where you're heavily monitored for, like, a couple years, maybe. In other places, like, Russia or China, you can be thrown in prison for it, yeah.
Oh my god. Well, I'm not surprised with China and Russia because they don't have human rights,
That's
but
I think
like,
I think it's most of the Western world too. But instead of prison, you go to a mental institution, which is basically the same thing.
For
hmm. Yeah, we have something called MAID, medical assistance in dying, and there
Hmm.
was a
I
lot
know
of
about that. There's
controversy.
Yeah, because y'all end up
Oh,
doing.
you know about it.
I know about it. Yeah, it was supposed to be for medical assisted suicide, and then y'all just ended up euthanizing people as well, which I'm against euthanization.
Um, Wait, can you elaborate?
You don't know the
So
difference? Do you know the
with
difference between the
medical,
two?
no, I thought
Okay.
it was just different terms in different
No,
countries that are
no,
used. They
no.
didn't
They're
say.
two completely different things. They function the same way, but they're two entirely different things. I talked to Mango about this yesterday. Medical assisted suicide is just it's just easier to provide an example. So a doctor will plug in the IVs and everything, give you the necessary like it'll like the medication and everything will be there for you to die, and the patient, let's say it's me, I press a button. I'm physically the one actively doing it, and killing myself, basically, right? Versus euthanasia, where the doctor will do all of that same stuff and he'll also press the button too. So instead of me doing it, which is suicide, the doctor is doing it instead. Someone else is doing it that is not me, or someone that I said could do it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I learned something new.
So they function the same way where the patient dies, but there are two different means of doing that one thing, and one I consider good, the medical assisted suicide, versus the other one, which is bad, which is euthanasia.
So what do you think about like
Oh,
limiting the cost of this? And then what we'll do is we'll make what I'll call a killing field, right? And we'll put a guy in a tower. No, it's a serious proposition. Okay,
Okay.
we put a guy in a tower, and his whole job is just to like when these people walk out into the field, they stand there, and then he shoots them in the head. Right.
Jesus Christ. No, I don't.
Well, then
That's
it's only the cost of the labor of the one person, and
no, I don't support.
the
No,
bullet.
I don't support that. No, because the point of medical assisted suicide is that it's well, that's still euthanasia because it's someone else pulling the trigger physically.
Well, yeah, but it's like a cold-blooded killer. It's not going to affect the integrity of
Yeah. Hey,
doctors.
wait,
It's
hold
going
on,
to.
hold on. Maybe that's where all the psychopaths go in your ideal
That's
society.
what I was just going to say. Yes.
That's
Hell
where all
yeah, dude.
the psychopaths
Then
are
they
gonna be the
have
one
like
pulling the
social
triggers.
use. Yeah.
Jesus,
Then they have
Jesus
social
Christ.
use. It's great.
Anyways, what were you gonna say, Luna?
um, so with medical assistance in dying, I know what you mean now. There were some safeguards that fell through and
Mm-hmm.
resulted in people either being um pushed into MAID, like using MAID,
Yeah,
who shouldn't have been, or people who were using MAID that people thought shouldn't have been using MAID.
yeah.
Um,
Or the doctor,
so
basically the
there's some
doctor, in a
controversy
sense,
about that.
doing the doctor doing everything, instead of the patient being the one directly being like, "Hey, I want this or I don't want this."
Yeah, imagine being poor and being like, man, I'm too poor to pay these bills, so I guess
I'm
I
gonna
just
go.
gotta go.
I'm just
And
go
then
kill
going to the
myself.
doctor.
I'm a. It's that's why
Yeah,
Canadians are way too nice. Oh, I'm being a burden on society. I guess I just go kill myself.
yeah. I mean, geez, I'd exhaust a lot more options before I'd pick MAID. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but like it
And
should.
like,
I think
I could.
the function of like what Maid was supposed to do, I think is good. It's a very noble thing. Um, but how it actually functioned in reality was terrible.
Yeah, so they wanted to expand too because there was this clause that sunset recently
Hmm.
that makes people who their sole underlying condition is a mental illness eligible for it makes them ineligible for MAID. That clause was sunset, so now they are eligible for MAID, and the conservatives fought hard to prevent that. They're
Okay.
like, no, we can't let people whose sole underlying condition is a mental illness to be able to get MAID, because then if you're depressed, you could get MAID. If you are, I don't know, you just don't want to live for whatever reason, and then you cite mental health, then you could get MAID. And they thought that would, open a big rabbit hole. A lot of people don't know though. The average age of people who get MAID are like people in their 80s,
Yeah.
super old people who are basically end of life anyway.
Yeah. Or people that are
It's not
like
like
in
there is
or
a
sick, right?
phenomena of people in their
People,
20s.
yeah, like maybe
Yeah,
someone who has cancer that's gonna die anyways, let them die in a peaceful way instead of in pain.
indeed. Um, so yeah, there's that. I don't know why we were talking about MAID. I don't think that your view on suicide's that controversial actually. I think a lot of
Okay.
people would agree with you.
No, no, they don't.
No?
I've talked to a lot of people and like several different like when I say I support suicide, I get so many crazy looks and people like yelling at me like how dare, because a lot of people have experienced like a suicide in like their family or friends or anything, and it's a very hot take when you say that you support suicide.
Mm. It's pretty messed up how nowadays you see people live streaming it, like going on Instagram live and doing it,
Yeah.
or Facebook live and doing it, or
In
that's pretty
some
messed up.
Yeah, in some way everyone has experienced suicide. Um and it's a very controversial thing because you don't want, realistically, you don't want anyone to die. But that's not reality, right? So at least provide those people the means of doing it in a safe way, so that way it's not a gun to the head or a noose and someone walking home, like maybe your parents or like your spouse or whatever, and they see this like tragic event. At least let it be in a peaceful
Yeah,
setting with doctors, so that way um, they can say their final goodbyes, and it's just a nicer way to go.
yeah. There's also like gender differences too,
Hmm.
which should be taken into account in like laws and stuff
But yeah,
between
men.
like men and women specifically,
Yeah,
you
I,
know?
I I heard something. I don't know how true this is, that men and women do it equally. However, men tend to be harsher than women in terms of how they do it. So men are more likely to use a gun or a noose, than and women are more likely to just try to cut or do something still bad, but not.
It's pills. Normally, women are far more common than men, but they attempt with things like pills, and they tend to underdo it and not die. Whereas men do it less, but they are far more effective when they do
They're
it.
they're more likely to pick the violent means, the men are, than women.
Well, the effective means, but yeah.
Effective, well, the violent mean is the effective mean, right?
Well, is a noose violent? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, it very much so is. Yeah.
Eh,
Snaps
Think
the neck. Or strangles
excellent.
you if you don't do it properly.
Yeah. Most people don't know how to tie a noose properly, so they end up just choking themselves to death, which is a terrible way to go. Or a lot of people will even just try to drown themselves, which is the worst way to die,
oh,
honestly. Drowning is the worst way to go.
I think burning alive, man. That's worse. It's
No,
far worse.
after a minute, you don't feel anything. You get once you get third-degree burns, you don't feel anything anymore. Um, and you just kind of sitting
Really?
there, not being able to feel anything. Yeah, because how deep it completely destroys the nerve endings. Second degree is the worst in terms of pain. Once you hit third degree, you stop feeling anything because the nerves are completely destroyed.
Wow.
But drowning,
That's crazy.
drowning is far worse. It is the worst way to go overall.
Oh, How about getting eaten alive by an animal? Which brings me to my story. Can I tell you a story, Sonic, about Grizzly Man?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Grizzly Man So Grizzly Man is basically he's an American. He was because he passed away. Spoiler
Mhm.
alert. He
Cool.
was basically an animal activist, particularly for animal conservation. He loved bears, so he'd spend half the year going remote and living with grizzlies, and he'd film it. Okay, so you have to watch footage. He'd like go right up to grizzlies. I don't know if you really know how lethal these animals are and how big and
Very.
how powerful they are and how
They are.
indestructible they are. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so it's no joke. He was badass. He'd spent like half the year doing this, committed his whole life to spending the other half of the year when the grizzlies were hibernating, basically just educating kids about bears and like the public. But then one year he went, and apparently the bears were really hungry because they were experiencing starvation. There just wasn't enough food. There was food scarcity. So a bear actually attacked him, and he took his girlfriend with him on this particular trip. So the bear started attacking him, right? And he could
Yeah.
have killed the bear. Like him and his girlfriend had knives, but he explicitly told her, like, don't kill it. And he literally let the bear eat him alive. And the reason why we
That's
know this is
terrible.
because it was recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he would take his camera out and record footage, and so they were able to make a documentary about him because of that. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is a one of the worst ways that you could die is
Hmm.
probably with
Being eaten
alongside
alive.
drowning is getting eaten alive.
Yeah.
And then also because it's just going back to people who, not that he's necessarily an example, but nobody could question his conviction, his belief in what he was preaching, right? Like how much he actually genuinely and sincerely loved bears and
Yeah.
believed in the sanctity of their life. Like he committed his whole life to it, so much so that he wouldn't kill it. It's kind of like Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter,
Yeah. He
how he
got.
got killed by the stingray.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tragically.
apparently,
Yeah.
like he could have killed the stingray, which could have potentially spared his life, by basically letting the stingray, not removing like the stingray from his body. You know,
Yeah.
like if you get stabbed by a knife and you leave the
Leave
knife
it
in
in
your
there. Yeah.
body,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you might
I
have a
get.
better chance of, but it would have resulted in the stingray being like dying. And
Yeah.
so he'd rather spare the life of the stingray than make his odds of surviving better.
Oh yeah. He, and
Um,
in a sense, he
but
was
yeah,
in
anyway,
its
I just
territory. Yeah. That's just nature.
yeah. Also, Mango's here.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, we're
Hi,
streaming.
Mango.
Just an FYI.
Oh,
Also,
thank you. Okay.
talking about bears, I have to ask both the ladies in chat. Man or bear?
Oh my god, that trend is so stupid. But I
Jesus
want to hear Mango's
Christ.
answer.
I mean, I
Man or bear? It's an easy answer, but let's see if you pick the right one.
oh, well, now I don't want to say.
You're gonna pick bear, aren't you?
No, I'm not gonna pick it all because
No,
you
no,
have
no. Pick. No, you gotta pick now. No, you have to pick now.
mm, yeah.
Pick one.
No, I'm good.
Why not? Why not? There's an obvious answer. There's a really obvious answer that I'm sure the rest of us three would be like, yeah, this is the correct answer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
pick
I'm
one.
picking bear. All right. Uh,
That's called clickbait right there. Verbal clickbait.
yeah, I'm picking bear, dude. That's
I'm picking bear. Okay.
listen. I don't trust a dude, but like a bear, you kind of cute, you know.
That's what my fiance said when I asked her on stream. It was like our last episode 17. Fucking I asked her and she said, "Yeah, the bear because it's cute." And like it's just a cute little bear cub. We all like the rest of us like, "Are you fucking stupid?" Like
Listen,
if there's a
if
bear
you're
cub,
like,
there's a mama nearby, and mama's gonna be mad.
if the bear's wearing a red shirt, I'm doubling it. That's
with
like
with a jar of honey in his hand, right?
That's Winnie the Pooh, dude.
With a
Hell
jar
yeah.
of honey. Oh no, mango.
Mm.
No, there it is.
I
Pick
think you're
one.
one of the examples that made sense to me was like middle of the night, you wake up, look outside, your backyard, there's like, would you rather see a bear or a, man? Middle of the night.
Man, just
Really?
yeah, I'd rather.
Nah, dude. I actually see that's a different conversation, right?
It is, but I think it
Um,
does get to the point of, we
yeah,
know
but, yeah,
there's, like,
Well,
motives.
I mean, I live in a neighborhood. It's not the middle of nowhere. Like people readily walk through people's backyards all the time. It's not uncommon in my neighborhood for people to do that. So it doesn't bother me.
yeah, but all right. So like, I think the reason it's a different question is like, if you're in the woods, a dude in the woods could just be walking. He could be just chilling, whatever.
Just camping. Yeah,
But
he
a
may
bear
just
in
be
the
camping
woods
nearby. Yeah.
could eat you, right? Whereas like in your backyard, if a bear's in your backyard, it's like bro just wandered in from the woods. He's not getting into your house. He's kind of chilling. Whereas I think there's definitely more of a threat of like if a dude's in your backyard staring at your window, it's like Jesus, like
He's
that's
just standing there. Jesus.
yeah. I'm putting my gun on the nightstand, like
Well, you should always
that's
have your gun nearby, right?
well, yeah, but I don't leave it on the nightstand unless
Hey,
like
hey,
there's a dude in my
Luna.
backyard.
Luna, this is why I should have the nuke. So that way if someone comes in my house, I have my Davy Crockett ready to go.
Yeah, nuke the bear in the backyard. Fucking
No,
what?
no, nuke the guy that comes into my house.
Oh,
Just get the
you're
like
talking
like
like
I gotta get my Davy Crockett, yeah.
brothers gonna fucking nuke the neighborhood over a goddamn.
Just stop one guy. Yeah,
Yeah, why
no.
not?
Ma-
That's like
Good to
that.
know.
That's
I lose sleep at night.
cannon at the top of the stair thing, right?
True.
That you got your
Like
door at the
just
bottom of the stairs,
did
the
you see
cannon on the
the
top.
I think there's a shit post a while ago. Like, oh, just the way the founding fathers intended. My musket fucking stabbing them and blowing holes through them with the fucking musket rounds.
With the
That,
bayonet, yeah.
and yeah, the bayonet that gets pulled out and can't be stitched up. Just the way the
Yeah,
founding
just how
fathers
the founding
intended.
fathers and
Yeah,
honestly, I think a 9 millimeters or like a fucking
it's humane.
357 is probably far more humane than a
Yeah,
fucking
a cannon and a fucking musket ball.
yeah. That's what although listen,
Although
if a fucking plume of black smoke appears in the doorway, right, and you just shot a hole through a guy,
I'm out.
right?
I'm out. Fuck that.
I'm pretty sure the other two guys that were gonna rob you are like, holy shit. Especially if you're wearing like a fucking powdered wig and like the ruffled coats.
Screaming. It's like screaming in Old English.
Yeah. Just fucking
On God.
bro, I'm leaving. All right. I'm
I'm
leaving.
just Jesus with my musket, like my pistol, my musket pistol and shit. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, also the back then the founding fathers had Gatling guns, so just
I don't is that fucking true?
yeah,
I don't know.
there was a Gatling gun, yeah. That it's from
Well, why
the
didn't we use it?
we did. It's just they're fucking
Why do
expensive
I
and
not know about this?
because it's not. Why do you think we get Gatling guns from? Like it's the guy is literally called like Gatling. Like this is his name. It's named after a guy.
1862.
I might be thinking of a different. It was a different one that was like it was a crank automatic, similar to a Gatling gun. I think
I don't know if it was around that time.
we had them during the Civil War for sure. Gatling guns.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
many years later.
yeah. Let me think.
I am doing as much research as I can.
I just fucking
A
blinded
variety of
myself.
multi-shot firearms were available well before the United States declared independence. Funny farm. Fault off breech loading mechanism. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we had anything automatic. It looks like.
Maybe I'm
Yep.
just
Nope.
misremembering. No.
Oh wait, hold on.
Oh.
We had okay. We had a gun that had 6 barrels.
Yeah.
That oh wait, 7 barrels and
Okay.
it shot all of them at the same time. So it's just a shotgun.
I guess maybe I'm mixing up the Civil and Revolutionary War for that specific
Yeah,
thing.
that's okay. That's okay. I would love to see like a fucking M2 Browning on the battlefield of like the Revolutionary War,
Oh,
right?
make a time machine. We'll go back. We'll help them out. It's like Jesus with a
Yeah.
machine gun, right? Like in the South Park memes.
Oh man.
Yeah.
If I could go back in time
You think that's how Moses
with
crossed the Red
one
Sea?
thing,
That's how Moses crossed the Red Sea, was with a fucking submarine.
what would you go if you could go back in time with
Yeah.
one thing to one date, what would it be?
Uh, I don't know. A lot of people say cell phones, but like you have no internet, so there's no point in that. If I
Yeah.
if I had the ability to download all of Wikipedia and then have like maybe a solar battery or something like that with a phone, that would be cool. Because then I would be able to, I could be like
Man.
a wizard and be like, hey, I know events before they're gonna happen. I'll be the fucking prophet and be like, this person will do this at this specific time, or I can
Yeah,
predict.
my answer's gonna sound unhinged as shit, but
Oh
Luna,
no.
your turn. Yeah.
What?
Oh,
So he's
oh,
doing
Oh,
all of Wikipedia
Nebula's
and a
here.
solar battery.
Hello.
hey,
All right,
Nebula
we're live
is
Nebula.
hold on, we're live streaming right
our
now, by the
NPCI
way.
expert.
Oh, word.
Oh,
Yeah, word.
So Nebula, for the live stream, if you could bring one thing back in time to only one time, what are you bringing? And where are
What?
you going?
Wait, one thing back in time to only one time? Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
I'd bring. That's a good question. I feel like everybody just says like I'd bring like a piece of technology like to ancient Egypt or some shit, right?
That's
And just
kind of
be
what
like worshipped as a deity.
that's kind of what I said. Yeah, I was like, have Wikipedia, all of Wikipedia downloaded on my phone, and then like with a solar battery of some kind on it, so I could always keep it charged, and be able to predict dates and shit.
Shit. Oh shit. Yeah, that's got to be the answer. You just bring back some future knowledge and just get worshipped as a god. That's got to
Yeah,
be the answer all the time, right?
I like it's.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what was it? It was when the settlers came over, to the state, like the states, to the North and South America. They knew in advance when an eclipse was going to happen, so they predicted a solar eclipse, and then they got worshipped as deities because of that.
Yeah, what didn't Christopher am I tripping or didn't Christopher Columbus do that? Didn't he
It,
like
it may have been
be-
Columbus or one of the. There was like 50 different like explorers during that time, but it was one of them, and like it was. I would do something like that, but like on a continual basis with every event ever known. But then the problem gets down to you might change history to the point that downloaded uh that downloaded history on Wikipedia it'll change. It doesn't matter, right? That's kind of the drawback.
Hmm.
it could be.
You
That's
you
true.
change it, like if I say like, hey, we can go to, I don't know, when France took Britain, like, hey, this is gonna happen because of this battle, and then they change their tactics in that battle so it doesn't happen. Well, that just changed the entire course of history, just that one event. So
I think if I'm going back in time, I'm bringing a gun and I'm killing.
baby Hitler.
I think I'm gonna kill. No, no, not baby Hitler. Hold on.
Who who could you kill that's possibly worse than baby Hitler?
Well, hold on, that's
I'm killing Thomas
That-
Edison.
Jesus Christ. So
Yeah, I'm killing Thomas Edison.
so Nikola Tesla can be the true inventor because he already was,
Yes,
so he can be recognized.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then technology will be far superior.
Yeah, we'll have wireless electricity. That was one of his things.
Exactly.
But
I'll have a fucking Tesla coil in my living room that just shoots electricity into my fucking computer.
yeah, too bad that's more science fiction than actual reality.
Well, yeah, but it could have been real if Tesla had gotten recognized.
Well, no, I'm saying that's not how electricity works. You can't just
I
direct it
know
like that.
I'm shit posting.
I'd
And
hope
also the
so.
time travel too, right?
Yeah. Also, yeah, that too.
Well,
You know what?
theoretically, time travel is possible. You just gotta go faster than the speed of light, and then you can go backwards in time.
I'm going back to like. I'm gonna go stop the. I don't know how I could even do this, but I'm gonna try and stop the Great Depression. All right.
Oh, you know
Going
what? I
back
just
to the
thought of
1920s.
the perfect thing. Get time travel. Go back to Stephen Hawking's party for time travelers.
I'm going to okay. If all right, if we're talking fucking Stephen Hawking, all right, I'm going to Epstein's Island because I want to fucking find out if that man actually did anything. He's a
No,
fucking.
that was a shit post. That wasn't real. That wasn't a real thing.
That wasn't real. No
No,
fucking way. It was
that
on
was
like
fake.
9 of the lists that I saw.
No, that was faked. That thing was
Oh,
faked with
thank
Stephen
God,
Hawking.
dude. I'm
With
like,
yeah, you're
bro,
talking about
man's
Stephen
in a
Hawking and the
fucking
midgets, right?
wheelchair.
Stephen Hawking and the midgets.
No, just Stephen Hawking in general being on Epstein Island. I'm like, holy
No,
shit,
well,
what's
that was the
Stephen Hawking is
that was hold on, that was the meme that Stephen Hawking like wanted like he had midgets that would like do math equations on a tall chalkboard or something like that. No, that was fake. That was all faked.
I'm
I know
You're
exactly
right.
what you're
Let me
talking
broach
about.
the subject.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, wow.
That wasn't real. That never
I
happened.
just don't I thought it not real
No, it never
okay, I
happened.
guess.
It never happened. Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's good. I like that. Thank you. All right, good to know. Cuz
Yeah.
fuck, dude.
No,
I
what
was
you
all
should
like,
be no, hold on. What you should be going back in time for is to see if Trump should did anything on Epstein Island.
maybe he might have.
That's yeah. We know he had
Go back to
connections with
check on
Epstein.
Joe.
He had connections. So
Anyway, all right, me Luna, your turn. What are you doing?
Okay, Birdman rubs hands. So we have Niebla. I don't even know if I'm saying your name properly. I see it all the time, but I'm just guessing how it's pronounced, so correct me. But MBTI. So I remember you saying a while ago, is it Niebla? Niebla? How do you say it?
Yeah, but no, that's exactly how you say it. Yeah, yeah, better than
Okay,
everyone else
so
says. I'm impressed.
oh, oh, okay. So
Don't
yeah,
stroke her
Niebla.
ego. Fuck.
it's cause she's
I
French.
am a sucker for flattery, not
It's
gonna
cause
lie.
she's French.
Oh no, I'm not. I hate French people, FYI.
Whoa,
Not
not on
not like
stream.
Whoa,
Holy
racism?
shit. She just called out a
no,
country.
it's
Holy
it's
fuck.
it's the whole country, like just their culture bothers
Clip
me.
that, boys. Clip that.
Um
Wow, I love
but
French. I
but
love
trust
French
me,
culture.
it's not based off of yeah, it's not based
Oh
off
yeah,
of just like arbitrary reasons. It's
it's
because
not based
of
off the
actual
race. It's the culture. That's why the typical
oh god.
racism
Dude, my
justifier.
my
No, just kidding. Just kidding.
this is what gets me in trouble.
Yeah,
I need to talk to
you got
my
caught in
so yeah,
you're
Anyway,
MBTI.
4K. Caught in 4K.
MBTI.
MBTI.
Wait, what are you hold on. Before we start talking about this, what are you ending your stream?
I don't know, just whenever it seems right.
Okay, do you want this on stream? Because the reason why I wanted to talk to Niebla was because he knows a lot about the Myers-Briggs personality test. So that's what we were going to talk about, just
Whatever
asking him questions on that.
whatever you want to share
Okay. Keep on the
live.
fucking stream because I'm calling him out. That shit fake as fuck. Not real. MBTI bullshit.
Why do you think it's fake? Why do you think it's fake?
Because it's not not replicable. All right. Within 5 weeks, your personality outcomes could be completely different. Right. So how can it be your overall personality traits if your personality has changed over a period of weeks?
Well,
That's interesting. Because
personalities change and
oh, sorry, go ahead.
personalities ebb and flow. It just depends on the circumstance and the situations that are put forth in your path.
Okay, so maybe it's accurate at the time that you take the test, but then it still has no social utility because you would have to almost do it weekly for it to affect your ability to change. It's almost as reliable
Well,
as
yeah,
like
but hold
fucking
on,
horoscope for
like
utility.
they relatively stayed the same.
Oh,
Like
wait,
it
wait, wait. But okay, so then the question becomes: is there a reliable personality test? Does that exist?
Yeah, because there's a branch off of like the Big Five.
Yes.
That is, what's that one? The hexo, whatever. It's the Big Five, but they add another trait. That one is supposed to be the most reliable, and even that is like, I think it's like 80% reliable.
Yeah, for sure. But of course, so you gotta, because with all personality tests, there's all sorts of biases and things like that. So 80% is a very, very good number for a personality test.
Yeah,
Um,
but that's not the MBTI,
sure,
which
sure.
was made by
Well,
statisticians instead of like.
let me ask you let me ask you this. What if I told you that MBTI traits and Big Five traits have direct correlation with one another? How would you feel about, being presented with that information?
Yo, fucking drop the link, all right? I'm being aggressive for stream, just saying. You're good.
You're good. I can probably like it's ridiculous how many studies have been done into it, but me let me find it.
Because my understanding is the results all depend on how self-reflective you are, and how honest you are in your
but,
like
but
assessment
like,
of yourself
and
when
even if
answering questions.
Wait, it's probably better if someone else does it for you that knows you really well. But even if it like changes, like it's usually like one or two letters overall that change and not the entire thing. Like you don't go from like insane introvert to insane extrovert. And it's it can be sometimes accurate. It depends on the situation and everything. And personalities do change over time. It's just a natural state of humanity.
Okay, but wouldn't the prescription for what to change to better your personality traits like change based off of those two letters?
I mean, for some, I think for most people, they'll take it just for fun and they don't let it affect them. For some people, yeah, they'll probably have that. They'll determine their entire life because of some personality traits, but that's a minority of people.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Which your problem is not with MBTI, like the theory of personality. Your problem is with the results of the test. Um, yeah, because there's Big Five tests that will do the same thing. Like there's Big Five tests that people will get different results at different times they take it. IQ scores do the same thing.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean that those aren't useful metrics of measuring personality, right? What that means is that the tests behind them are doing a shitty job.
Is there a study that shows that the MBTI results affect overall outcomes? Like
Well,
the personality trait given to you will inherently uh, drive certain outcomes.
so there's correlative studies between things like salary, things like IQ, things like, and this is a really deep rabbit hole you can go to, but it's used very heavily in sports, like to predict a player's potential, I guess. So there's a lot of correlative studies, if you want to go into that rabbit hole. But I don't even think it's necessary because those studies exist for the Big Five, right? And if Big Five is shown to have empirical utility, then MBTI necessarily has to as well. Like it's just impossible that otherwise there would be no correlation, right?
I mean, maybe I don't see that you could compare it directly with like IQ. Like IQ is like you can look at IQ and then you can draw a direct correlation to like outcomes in life, right?
Hmm.
Overall, and I guess the question is if you're able to do that with these results. If you are able to do that with these results, then I could say these have 100% like some social utility, right? Where like IQ definitely has utility in society,
Well,
right?
it's not a direct correlation from what I've seen, but there is absolutely a correlation with certain traits. Like for example, the sensing types and the extroverted thinking types are usually more conscientious, and conscientiousness has an impact on salary. The feeling types are usually more agreeable. The intuitive types are usually more creative, etc., etc.
Yeah, and they can be
Yeah,
placed
like
in
markers
appropriate
for trait
fields,
openness.
and then they can be placed in appropriate fields
Yeah,
afterwards.
I mean,
yeah.
in theory, yeah, but you could get that from like
Uh,
it. Do you have to take a personality test to be able to find out whether or not you're like high in like trait openness and neuroticism and like
Well, like
all these factors, or
well, the thing is, like, people that's maybe interested in like caretaking fields and stuff are gonna like have a higher likelihood of having that personality type that would be into that, right? It- Um, I also don't really like IQ tests or personality tests just because
I know.
there's things that you can study for. Like, you can study for these kind of things just to get the exact results that you want, and I think that just makes it flawed as well.
Yeah, I mean, sure. You could call that flawed.
Well,
But
it
you could
is.
also say that like
If you can study for a specific test to get a specific outcome, then that test inherently is flawed. If it's supposed to try to measure something
no, the way you
objectively.
took the test was flawed. Yeah, no, the way you took the test was flawed. You're not supposed to go into it having studied. An IQ test is like you're supposed to be testing your ability to recognize patterns and reason, right?
Well, yeah, you
And
can
like
study, but you can
going into
study.
it having studied, you fucked the test up. It's not that the test is flawed; it's the way that you took the test was flawed, right?
Yeah, because there's no real way to get around that, right? Like no matter what test you make, eventually someone's gonna find a way to be able to study for it.
Well, yeah, but
There's no way to get rid of that.
but then that makes like the entire concept almost flawed. As if it's all reliant on the single test, then and someone can study for it to break the system, and anybody can do that, then how do you know that these scores are actually accurate, and how do you know like anything about the information that's
Well,
provided for
because
you?
you know
I would
that they're
say 'cause you can
accurate.
go-
Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Well, you know that they're accurate because people with higher IQs have higher outcomes, right? And people with lower IQs have lower outcomes, right? Because you can false the test. You can say, well, I have an IQ of 130. I'm a genius, right? But you cheated on the test because studying for the test is cheating on an IQ test, essentially, because it's defeating the purpose of the test, right? So you cheated to get that 130, and then your outcomes in life aren't going to be as high, even though your IQ is
Well,
higher,
that's
right? And
also
the
really weird.
reason for that would be because your true IQ is not that.
There's several
It's
people
wrong.
who've had insanely high IQs, but because they didn't have like the starting conditions for their life weren't great, they never could like achieve anything. I can't remember the exact name of a guy, but
So that's why we go
he
by averages, not
but
outliers.
like he could like he was his IQ was like higher than Einstein's, and he by the time he was like 8, he knew like 5 different languages type thing. And he
I
ended
mean,
up
for sure.
but he ended up like achieving nothing in life. He ended up killing himself later in
Yeah,
life
because there's
because
outliers.
but
Yeah.
if the idea is that higher IQ means you have better outcomes, then why would there be
No. On average, you have better outcomes. There's a big difference between you
well
will have a better outcome, or
isn't the
you on
better
average
isn't it
would.
well isn't it better to say though it's not that it's the IQ, it's the if you have great starting conditions regardless of the IQ, you're most likely you're on average going to have better
That's
like
not true.
outcomes.
That's not true, because you could be handed millions of dollars right off the bat. As soon as you turn 18, your parents hand you over a business. If you have a low IQ, right, and you just aren't capable of handling that amount of responsibility, you will fail. Right, and then you can look at outliers, right? Sure, in the U.S. we have plenty of people who have high IQs
Well,
that don't succeed, but the averages are still showing
but
that is the trend. That the higher
well, hold
IQ
on, but
allows for
if
success.
Yeah,
But if you go to
but
Africa,
but
right?
the people with those better outcomes are more likely to have that higher IQ because they have the better means of getting the necessary education and stuff to perform better on IQ tests.
Yeah, I didn't say anything that would refute that. Yeah,
Well, yeah, but that still
I
makes
wasn't
it.
arguing that.
That solely relies on the outcomes. If you don't have good outcomes, then on average you're going to end up having you're going to perform worse on IQ tests than if you had like better outcomes.
So what you're saying is that,
it's
like,
about the
what you're
starting.
saying is IQ does
It's
matter.
about this.
Sorry, go
It's
ahead.
well, and it's about the starting conditions matter more than anything else because that ends up determining your entire life, including what your IQ could possibly be. So it's
I
not
mean, sure.
it's not about IQ. It's about the starting conditions. If you don't have good starting conditions, on average, you're not going to have you're not going to have good IQ scores because you never got the necessary education to be able to perform well on IQ tests.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily true either, because you could have great starting conditions and a low IQ and never
Then
succeed, right?
that's the outliers, right? On average, the people with
Mhm.
better starting conditions are going to perform better in IQ tests, and people that are in worse starting conditions are going to perform worse on IQ tests. Because then,
Yeah, but you're still your original claim was that IQ tests aren't that important.
well,
Right?
yeah, they're not.
Or
It's
aren't good
yeah,
indicators. It
it's
is the best indicator.
it's not though. The
Yeah, it is.
starting conditions for someone's life determine much more in terms of success than
It determines their
IQ.
IQ. On average, it would determine their IQ, because I mean, there are students that can thrive in bad situations, but the
Yeah.
average student can't, right? So that would be the outlier. So if the education system is inherently de- um, minimizing the amount of people, or minimizing the average IQ. So say you're in a bad school system where if somebody goes to all their classes and the average IQ is lower because the school system's not as good as another school system. The problem isn't this necessarily the starting point
Do you
alone. It's also
well,
the IQ
do
the IQ outcomes of
do
that
you
starting
do you
condition.
do you know the simple math equation A equals B, B equals C, therefore A equals C, right? You know about this?
Sure.
A being the starting conditions, whether it be good or bad, equals the IQ, which equals outcomes, like either positive or negative outcomes, right?
I'm not
Therefore,
refuting that.
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not refuting that. Like the starting conditions don't affect
So
the outcomes.
but that
I'm
middle,
refuting that
but
IQ
saying,
is a bad marker.
but hold on, but that's saying that middle, that B is unnecessary in the equation, when the reality is just that A equals C. It's just a longer way of
No,
saying A
but
equals
it
C.
doesn't though.
But no,
But
A equals
it's
B,
not.
B equals C, therefore A equals C is just a long way of saying just A equals C, right? It's just a longer way of saying that, but you're saying the exact same thing. Outcome, like the starting conditions on average will determine the outcomes. The starting conditions determine the outcomes. The starting conditions determine the IQ, which determine the outcome. It's the same way of just saying that A equals C. It's the exact same thing.
Well, no, because it's not. It's not. That's not the equation, right? In this,
IQ, like there's a correlation between those two things, right? People's diets, people's education, etc., etc. But that it's not true that they necessarily determine IQ. That's just
It's on average,
like
though. It's well, there's
different.
outliers to there's outliers to anything, but on average, this is the case. That if you don't have good starting conditions, you're not going to get the necessary education to be able to perform well in an IQ test, which means that you necessarily, according to that, would show that you would have bad outcomes, which is what we see in the case. People in poverty tend to stay in poverty and don't get out of poverty because they don't get the necessary education to be able to get out of poverty.
yeah,
That's not because of the education. That's because IQ. The IQ is correlated. The way IQ tests are done, like you need education to even be able to understand like what's going on. You know what I
And
mean?
if
Like
you
they
don't
need
get
to
the
have.
and if you don't have the good starting conditions to be able to get an education in the first place, then you're not even going to be able to take the IQ test in the first place or even understand what it's doing. So then you're going to have bad outcomes anyways, because you never were too poor to even get education.
Yeah, of course, but that doesn't mean IQ isn't measuring tangible, and it just has to do with people's, you know, like
But
life
it's
life
better.
upbringing stuff.
It's better to say that if people like the starting
Okay.
conditions determine the outcomes than IQ they're determining outcomes, when everything is determined by
can't
the
it be
starting
both?
conditions anyways. Well,
Can't it be both?
everything about your life is determined by your starting conditions.
Not necessarily.
Your like the way your brain functions and where you're born determine everything about you. And they're two things that you
But
can't
what if
control.
we controlled for like two people with the same starting conditions, and the only difference was their IQ, and then we saw where the two of them like ended up in life?
Well,
Would you say like IQ is
but
meaningful
you
then?
you still say, well, you just told me that IQ is depending on if you even got like to be able to understand an IQ test or be able to take one properly, you would need the education necessary to do it, right? To be able to even take one. And if you don't even have the
Yeah, we're not
education,
refuting that.
yeah, but
We're
if you
not
do,
refuting that. We
but
agree
like,
on that. What he's saying is that IQ is a marker all on its own that has nothing to do necessarily with the school system. The outcomes just turn out
no, not
better
even
when you
necessarily,
have
not even necessarily the school. the way your brain functions, which is, and like where you're born, are two starting conditions that determine everything about you. Not, it has nothing necessarily to do with
Yeah,
IQ.
but you said A plus B, or A equals B, B equals C.
C,
Therefore,
yeah, A equals C.
yeah,
It's,
A
yeah,
equals
yeah.
yeah. So, but that's not the equation that's not the equation that we're giving, right? Because the IQ is a separate factor of schooling, right? It's not school equals high IQ. That's not the equation. School equals
Well,
higher
it
IQs on
isn't.
average.
Isn't
That
it
is
the
the
case that the more education you receive, the more likely you are to, on average, the more likely you are to perform higher on an IQ test than if you didn't receive education?
no, you just fall into the bell curve,
And
right?
that's true, but that's why
Instead
you
of
do
just
the
being off the
control.
bell curve.
That's why you do the control of like two people from the same exact educational background, with the same family life, the same, they both have two-parent households, whatever, and then see like how their life results are different depending on their IQ, right?
Maybe I overall, well, it also depends on the brain state too, right? Because for them to be the same in terms of like just in the same, they would also need, in a sense, be the same person. So like you have to make like an exact clone of someone and then have them grow up in the exact same way. Which at that point they'd both perform the same.
So two twins grow up in the same household with no education, right? The only difference is one has a higher IQ than the other base without the schooling, right?
Well, twins are two
Do you
different
think that
people.
one
They have,
twin's gonna have better outcomes?
it depends on the brain
Yeah,
state.
but that's as similar conditions as you could possibly get, right? They grew up with the same culture, with the same parents, with the same environment. Like that's as similar as you could possibly get. So if you want to say that like everybody's outcome is individual to them, then it doesn't matter if you go to school or not, right?
For those twins, they'd probably perform, even the one with higher Q, they'd probably perform relatively the same because they don't even have the necessary starting conditions to like be able to do anything in the first place.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily true, right? So there's people that are able to get out of situations like that are people that are critical thinkers, and IQ
There,
is a good marker for somebody's ability to
yeah,
recognize patterns and to think
and there
critically,
can also be people
right?
who may not perform well on an IQ test in the first place and be able to get out of a bad situation. It's not,
Yeah,
determinant
we're
on
talking
the
about on
higher IQ.
average, right?
Well, it's not determinant on IQ. It's just about, like, in a sense, the luck of the system. Like if it can like perform better for you versus someone else, regardless
I
of your
mean, yeah,
IQ.
I would. I
It's
still feel like you're stating like that your starting position is the only factor that matters, right? Whereas
it kind of,
IQ
well,
is a
yeah.
separate factor that matters separately, all in its own.
Well, their starting conditions determine everything about you, including like intelligence or anything like that. And just because you may have a higher
Well, because
intelligence doesn't mean that you're also going to have necessarily better outcomes as well. It just depends on like how well you can play the system, or if the system like does good for you or does bad for you.
okay, perfect. And what determines how well you are able to play the system, like and understand it?
Um, Education, just so you can understand. It's just education, and if you don't have the necessary
And what
education,
determines how well you can understand education?
uh, if you're not autistic, or I don't know, like just your brain state.
IQ, because the low level of IQ is retardation, and then the high level of IQ is genius, right? So you're falling on this spectrum, and where you are on that spectrum determines how well you're going to be able to retain the information from the education. You could have the best education in the world, and there's still going to be kids that fail, right? And that the reason for that is low IQ or low motivation, depending on the person. But like these are it's a separate factor all on its own. You can't say that like if everybody grows up in this community and everybody grow and the people that grow up in this community, if you look at them, they'll all be in the same place. That's not how it works, right?
Also,
Because
people
you're
have
saying that
different
if you start here, you're going to end up here regardless of anything
people also have different
except
learning
for the
styles,
outliers.
right? Like, would you say that some people may perform in one educational setting better than another? It's like based
I
off a
mean,
learning
sure, yeah,
style. Yeah. So could it also be the case that,
yeah, but that's just,
and everyone has
go
different
ahead.
learning styles, right? Like some people might be kinesthetic versus auditory, right? And that can also determine if someone's
Yeah,
successful
and
or not as well in terms of education.
Sure, but
Go
what
ahead,
you're
Lane.
saying is that IQ isn't everything, but it is something, right? Like it does play an effect in people's lives.
I would say it's not the most important thing, but I would still say that of course some people are more intelligent than others. Um, However, I wouldn't put IQ as like the biggest factor that determines someone's success.
Yeah, I'm with Sonic. The reason being is, how do you explain twins, identical twins, so they have the exact same DNA, who are raised in different environments, ending up with different IQs?
They would have they'd be
Because
in
they don't
different.
have the exact same DNAs, right?
They
Well,
do, though. The reason why their IQs are different is because IQ is not purely genetic, it's actually influenced by environment. So you can score higher on an IQ test, having a higher IQ based off of factors unrelated to your genome and to your genes and DNA. And this has been shown through twin studies where you had twins, one was adopted, Korean twins, one was adopted by an American family, and one remained in Korea living in poverty. And these two twins ended up with vastly different outcomes. And that's because the twin that was adopted by the American family was raised in a middle class environment, got access to good schools, and most importantly, to Sonic's point, is that if you are in a learning environment that isn't conducive to how you learn, it doesn't really matter your IQ so much as the fact that you are being put in a position where you have to overcome barriers that other kids don't. And then that becomes the more important factor versus your IQ. Your IQ can't beat out, for example, being forced to learn in an environment where it's completely in contradiction to your learning style, just for example. Or let's say you're somebody who has dyslexia. You might have a normal IQ or an IQ that's above average, but if you're in an environment that doesn't support the fact that you take longer to read, then you might just seem stupid or not be able to keep up.
Okay. Yeah. So
So yeah,
the so IQ does have a genetic component. It's not completely determined by genetics. That's obvious, right? Because somebody who didn't go to school is going to have, on average, a lower IQ than the people that did, right?
mm-hmm.
For sure. And I don't even know if I'm saying that IQ is the best determining factor as far as like situation goes, right? If you're looking at your situation and you're living in like uh in squalor with no education, then yeah, you're probably like you're extremely limited by that. But I think the original claim was that intelligence is not a good marker for outcomes. And then that the statistics show that it is 100%, because on average people with higher IQs are in higher income situations, right? And I think what the reason why we want to improve the school systems is because it does increase the average IQ, and obviously that is better for outcome.
Which is all determined on your starting location in a sense. Like if you start in poverty, regardless of how intelligent you are, you most likely are going to stay in poverty. There's some people who can get out of it, but on average, if you're in poverty, you are more likely to stay in poverty. Versus if you're rich, you're more likely to stay rich as long as you got the necessary education.
No, I'm alone.
It's all based on averages, right? But your starting condition is the biggest determining factor on your success, which is completely out of your control.
Yeah, I'm not denying that, and we've already had this conversation,
Yeah,
right?
which
Like
and
we're all on the same page, but
yeah,
I think
but then
to say that
IQ,
IQ isn't important is like that's just wrong.
I'd say IQ is not necessarily a good in like it's not good on determining success on its own. No.
Okay, yeah, not on its own, but nothing is. There's no good indicator that is single-handedly going to predict your outcome.
On average, yes,
On
there
average,
is.
no.
On average, yes, there is.
No.
Your starting conditions are a
It's
very
going
good.
to predict the outcomes
It is a
with
very good.
100% accuracy.
It's most not necessarily 100%, but at least upwards of 70 to 80%. Yeah, it will.
Well, IQ does as well.
Well, yeah, but that's also determining on your starting condition as well.
Yeah, but so it's just as effective for determining outcomes.
But it's not
as starting. The
but
statistics show it, man. Like that.
IQ.
Your argument is that
Hold on.
like
No,
if
IQ has some genetic to it, sure, but most of it is more of a social thing in terms of education. And if you're too poor to even get the necessary
Mhm.
education, well, that's going to determine your IQ just on its own. The best determining factor is your starting conditions. That is the best determining factor on success, which that on its own can determine an IQ, but which is more of a social thing, but it's not the best
say
determiner on its own.
so if say we baseline everything, everybody in society has the same starting position. What is the best determiner for outcome?
At that point, it'd be seemingly random chance, right?
No, it'd be IQ.
A lot of it would be random chance.
Not necessarily. Wait, how?
Even if you
How would
have
it
it,
not be IQ?
even if you have a high IQ, if you get a bad luck of the draw, well then you're shit out of luck anyways.
But you as all right. So the actions that a high IQ individual would take would be hedging against failure, whereas low IQ people tend to take chances and take unnecessary risk.
Which
That's
could
just
determine great success or great failure for both,
yeah, but that would be
whether it be
outliers,
slow or
right?
fast.
Whereas on average, people with high IQs would hedge against failure and succeed more often,
Well,
which is what
also,
we see in
well,
like
also,
upper middle class and upper class. Like that's what happens when you have high IQs, right? That's how they get to these levels.
do you think that Donald Trump has
Not
a high IQ?
necessarily, right?
Well, like, do you think Donald Trump has a high IQ?
I think he does actually. Yeah, I
Okay.
think he's a narcissist with social like with problems with social communication, and he had a really good starting position. I'm not claiming that IQ is the only factor, right? But you're claiming that starting position is because, and I
It is the greatest
that's
factor
just
of determining everything about you. Yes,
it's,
you're
yes, but it's not the only one. And your argument is that we
well in a
shouldn't even
sense.
worry about IQ because it doesn't fucking matter. That's not true. It
Well,
doesn't.
I mean, you also don't. You also know I don't believe in free will. So, which
Yeah,
at
we're
that,
not going into the meta.
what
You said we weren't doing meta
I
combo.
know, but I'm
All
just
right,
saying.
we're
But
not
like,
doing
I'm bringing that up because I'm saying at that point,
I got the
you're.
gun right here, dude. I'll
Oh,
fucking do it. All right.
well, no,
We're
I'm
not
just saying.
doing meta
Hold on, no,
combo.
no, I'm not trying to get into the medics. I'm just saying. I'm saying what I'm trying to just say is that I am heavily influenced by this idea that there is no free will. Because at that point, starting conditions, which the two biggest things that determine everything about you, being the location and the brain state, will determine everything about you, including your future. Which that's why I'm also saying that
Yeah.
is the only factor and the biggest factor in anything in determining outcomes. Because that is
Yeah. No, I
everything about
totally,
you.
I
That's
totally. I'd say you could say starting condition is the most important when you're at the bottom. I would say starting condition becomes far less important once you make it to that upper middle class area.
well, starting conditions do determine everything about you. And it's just kind of how it is. The way your brain works will determine your personality, and then your like look
How
at
do you
just for small examples, like location is going to determine like how much education you could possibly receive and take advantage of.
Yeah, okay, but how do you account for the fact that 3 generations down the line, on average, people who were millionaires, their families are no longer rich. They're back into
Because
like
they get complacent, because a lot of people tend to get complacent and they don't really like teach good investing, like they don't give them necessary education to be able to know how to invest and save money, right? That's like one of the biggest things is that it's a lack of education, which then causes bad spending habits, just like how poor
well,
people
lack of
have a
education leads to low IQ, right?
well, yeah, but also lack of education in the poor community also leads to poor spending habits as well. It kind of just goes down to education, and if
Yeah,
you
because
but
because of
but
low IQ.
yeah, but then the amount of education you receive also determines your IQ. for the most part because it's a social thing on average.
So IQ matters.
Well, no, it's
No,
not
it
that.
does, because what you're saying is if you can't
No,
understand the system,
I'm saying that
even if you
education
get
matters.
out
No,
of the
it's not that IQ matters. It's that education matters.
matters because it increases your average IQ for a community. That's what matters about it. That's the part of it that matters. Why do we get educated? So that we can learn the system, and people who have higher IQs are more attuned to learning the system. They're actually going to understand the
But at that point,
nuances and like
but at that point, the IQ doesn't necessarily matter. It's
no,
it's
it
just
does. It does, because people who understand the system with higher IQs have higher outcomes, and once you get them out of poverty, people with low IQs separate vastly more than people with high IQs. Right? I'm like I said, if you get into that middle class region, IQ matters substantially more than starting conditions. Right? Because everybody in the middle class, we have some form of basic education, right? And then IQ becomes the determining factor.
hold on, my fiance's calling me. She's probably telling me to hurry the fuck up.
Okay. Luna is posting poetry in the chat. Wild.
Thought you guys could use it for some inspiration.
Some inspiration. I can't read while I'm yelling. Okay.
She's mad at me because I didn't give her charger because I didn't leave the house at 4 o'clock when we were supposed to do our stream.
Fair enough.
So because her dumbass forgot to charge her phone. So even though I said something last night, it's like, hey, you should probably charge your phone.
Women, am I right, guys? Yeah.
No, she's gonna come home pissy, mad at me, and then she's gonna get over it in like 30 minutes.
It sounds like you're cooking dinner tonight, buddy boy.
I always cook.
Yeah, bring her some chocolate
Hell
covered
yeah,
strawberries.
Well, that's we don't have strawberries. I wish we did. But so hold on. So she's in college for culinary. She's doing this stuff. She wants it to be her career, is to be like baking and cooking and stuff. Me, I'm the one that does all the cooking in the house. So even though I'm not the one in education for this career.
Listen, have you ever worked food service?
Yes, I've only ever worked food service, minus this
Did you want to
new
come
job.
home and cook?
Actually, yes, because I used to cook for myself all the time, even when I was working like McDonald's.
I hated that shit. That's
Well,
wild. I've never heard that.
Well, that's the thing, is that I didn't see it as a chore, because I've always enjoyed food and I've always enjoyed cooking my entire life. I actually almost wanted to get a career in like culinary too. So food service is like up my alley type thing, and now I'm tired of food service because I've done it for like 5 years. But like I always cook for myself because I think it's like a good thing to learn and a good thing to do, and also I love eating, so it's perfect.
Yeah, like I'm good cooking when I'm hungry, but outside of that, bro, fuck.
Like,
I'm the kind of guy that like puts a burrito on a pan and puts it in the oven kind of.
Although that was me with dishes though. Like a lot of the stuff that I did as well was I closed and I did a lot of dishes at night. Actually, when I was working at McAllister's for half a year, most of my job was just doing dishes, which was great because I just pop in an earbud and just listen to music and do whatever. But I would come home and I just wouldn't want to do dishes because it was a chore. It was not something I wanted to do. It's not something I liked to do. Cooking is not like, it's not, I don't see it as a chore. So
Well, the reason I don't want to cook is normally because of the dishes. All right, I'll cut all the vegetables, I'll cook all the food, but then fuck, dude, dishes? Nah.
Yeah,
and when you live alone, the dishes have to be done by you.
But the thing is, I live with my fiance and I still do everything around the house. Actually, I'm supposed to be mowing the lawn. I'm supposed to finish mowing the lawn at some point tonight.
Who's the breadwinner?
Shit. It's 6.
Me and my fiance work, so. And
Listen,
here it's 7.
When she starts making that big bucks, all right, you gotta pose the question.
Hold on.
Can I just watch the house?
Hold on. Well, actually, I would love to be a stay-at-home dad, but also I'm the one going into psychology, which is I'm going to be making more money, and also if this streaming thing pops off, well then fuck, I'm making killer.
Yeah, say,
Killing
fuck
me.
psychology. Do that shit for fun, bro. We're
Well,
running for president. All right.
actually, I would love to
Sonic
try
for
to.
president.
Actually, unironically, I would actually do want to get into politics. I think that'd be fun. So maybe if I build a political career on fucking Twitch and YouTube, then maybe I can, when I run, I'll have a substantial following.
Hell yeah, the mango mash is popping off. All right, you're popping off. We'll get that. Honestly, you gotta link the server on your fucking your shit at some point. Just put it in the description.
Well,
oh
I have.
God. Oh no.
Well, hold on,
Big
hold on.
man's here.
Wait, hold on. We need to inform. I am streaming right now. I'm sure you already knew.
Oh, I informed him already.
Oh, okay, cool.
Oh snap! Is that Chip?
It is Chip.
Degenerate Chip Chaser.
Yeah, the neo-Nazi fascist Chip.
Welcome, bro.
Chip the Chad.
The red pill
Popping in
Chad,
with his
yeah.
Baldos.
Chip the reprobate.
Bro popping in with his balls out, just hanging
My
low.
arch nemesis.
Well,
Chip
shit,
the
he's muted.
vagabond.
We're just gonna
Chip
keep
the
talking about him until he
scallywagon.
fucking unmutes. Is that what we're doing?
Jesus, I should probably be turning off the stream soon. Anyways, we've been going for almost 3 hours, and that's a
Yeah,
lot
man.
of a lot of editing for you.
I want to say how I really feel.
Goddamn right it is. I've already got a couple clips ready. All right, we're gonna start farming.
Oh, you've been clipping this shit.
No.
You
But
wanna?
I know
You
where
know
the
what?
clips are.
You
I've
know
been
what?
time stamping, so
You know what, Mango? You should run the Statecraft series TikTok page, because I fucking refuse to use
I don't
TikTok.
do TikTok, but I'll
I refuse.
do YouTube Shorts for you.
Yeah, you do that. Shoot, yeah, that's a great way to drive viewership. Yeah, fucking do that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should look back at all of my old
alright,
videos
yeah.
and start clipping that shit. But anyways, I think it's good to turn it off now.
I think so.
Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. I don't know when the next time I'll be streaming. Just it'll be random until I can get a good schedule. All right. Bye bye.